Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 313. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, alongside Johnny V. And our live
studio audience. Normally, we just have the mini audience.
Yes.
That people see before the show, the wall of fame, as we call it.
But now we have a new Patreon level where you can be
the studio audience member.
Yes.
our biggest fan. For those of you that don't know, behind the curtain, the man behind the curtain, in a lot of aspects of disc golf, is Mo Barani.
This guy.
Right. Yeah,
this guy.
There he is. Mo is in the studio tonight. He is just taking care of some stuff for the broadcast, getting ready for this weekend where we have GMC coming up, doing all the fun stuff, uploading, downloading, using up all my bandwidth. I think that's how it works. Yeah.
Now, if all of a sudden things get a little jittery or Johnny starts sounding dumb, we can just blame Mo and the upload speeds. Is that a fair out for you, Johnny?
Sure.
What do we do all the other weeks when you say stupid things?
I don't know.
Well, we are
Good
glad
thing that doesn't happen.
No. Well, we're glad you guys are here to join us tonight. Again, SmashBoxxTV episode 313. We're gonna have Brody Smith, who obviously has been a topic of conversation throughout this entire year. We've seen a lot of ups and downs as he's jumped from Ultimate into the disc golf scene. Of course, has received some mixed reception, but I think overall it's been quite good. Well, this weekend...
What has he ever accomplished, though? Like, seriously, the guy has never done anything in our sport. Why do we...
I think he can tell them to drink the haterade or something. I'm sure we've got some of those comments ready to go. But this weekend, an impressive performance, of course, by Brody Smith, besting a couple of other really solid players. And so I know this maybe dips into a few other sports, but you think about sometimes, the guy that broke up the no-hitter. You think about the guy that we'll say either, blocked the pass that would have been the game-winning touchdown or whatever the case might be. Do the people that Brody beat, are they going to in any way be memorable? Because some people would say
not for
if he went out and won, the first thing people would say was look at the quality of the field. But there were a handful of quality players there.
Coda Hatfield
is one of the legends of the game.
Is a legend in that region.
Oh, he's a legend, period. He once rolled all the way to the pin on hole number 10 at the Memorial and got the 2 on hole 10 out at the Vista del Camino course.
Yes.
Right. He cemented himself. He right out of the gunite and then cemented himself into legendary status with that one shot alone.
He's a phenomenal player. I don't know if I quite put him in that legend category. He's I give him a regional legend. He's a regional legend. So honestly, you can't. I mean, we'll talk to Brody about it. He's online, and we'll have him up in just a second here. But it is. Yeah. So we'll have him. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll recap a few things that went down this weekend, some other exciting news, and things happening out on the internets and whatnot. And then also we'll do our best to give you maybe a few details of what we might think we're going to see or hear or experience at the Green Mountain Championships as the Disc Golf Pro Tour, of course, rolls up into the northeastern part of the country, up into beautiful Vermont, and the GMC. It's so great to see our players that are up there that have been quarantining and getting ready for the event, and then you see post after post of this place is beautiful. This is my favorite place to be. This is the best part of the country. This is the best time to be here. All of those things are true. I've been there. It is, and I want to start asking questions about how this is going to affect the gameplay with all the players being there, but I think that's a longer conversation for us to have.
Yeah, a little bit later.
And I don't want to get into that yet, but it's hard for me to stop, Terry.
I know.
So much
Can't
hype.
stop the feeling.
Please don't ever do that again.
And speaking of some old school throwbacks, as soon as I realized we had our friend Mo here, couldn't help but go to the Alanis Morissette hit. Guess the year. I didn't look. I'm gonna have to go off memory myself. But guess the year for Uninvited by Alanis Morissette. Was that off her debut album?
I don't believe
Jagged
it was
Little
off,
Pill?
I don't believe it was off Jagged Little Pill.
Oh.
It might have been, but I don't think so.
Oh.
I think it was off her second album. If I had
Which
to
you
take
don't
a
remember
guess,
the name of.
Not a clue.
No, me either.
So if I had to take a 96, because I think her debut album was 94 when I worked at Best Buy. We both, and so I think it came off her second album. Can you fact check? Should I fact check?
Yeah, we could quickly fact check. I was gonna guess it was off of Jagged Little Pill and her first album, which I would have said 93 or 94. But we could both be wrong here. Uninvited off of
Freemasons. Oh no, that's a different
somebody else
Uninvited.
sings that
That's
song.
a different Uninvited.
Here we go.
97.
Okay.
Off of the City of Angels soundtrack originally. It was released as a single. I'm sure. I'm sure
Jagged Little Pill, 1995. We were both off by a year.
All right, 95. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. 94.
And folks, you got to be somewhere between 36 to 45 to get all these references right now.
More than likely, that is why the kids call us the hippest disc golf podcast in the interwebs.
Yes. So good guess at 94 out there, Daniel. You were just one off. But and before we get Brody, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but before we do get Brody, I just want to quickly send, I think it's worth topping off the show with, yesterday we saw a post on social media, unless it's some form of trick shot, our good friend Simon Lizotte seemed to have proposed. I'm going to assume she said yes, otherwise maybe he wouldn't be publicly posting it, but Simon Lizotte and Natalia, as he proposed to her, it looked like, I think it was outdoors, maybe near a campfire or something of that nature, wherever it was. I don't know the details yet, but I wanted to give the quick and very appropriate congratulations to them. And I was thinking about, I think that was the same day yesterday, I think Tina and Eric celebrated their second anniversary. Disc golf love is in the air.
There's a lot of love in the air, Terry.
All right. Speaking of lots of love out there, I think we have Brody Smith queued up. Brody, you're seeing and hearing us probably, maybe? Okay, he says he can hear us, and I think without further ado, if you're ready, Johnny?
I'm ready.
Does that look good?
We're going to let him take a drink. We're not just cut in on our guest while he's mid-swallow there. Without any further ado, Mr. Is a B-tier champion?
We got to find out. Let's get the details. Brody Smith. Brody, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Doing good, man. So,
nice.
I want to ask you, how does it feel to get the monkey off your back? But you haven't even been here long enough to have a monkey on your back. Do you feel that way, or do you feel like there has been?
There was one tournament that I played a couple weeks. I think it was right before I went to Idlewild. I don't know actually when that was, but it was a local little B tier as well. The field wasn't nearly as deep as the Magnolia Open, and I ended up losing by I think one shot. And I didn't play very well the first round, and then the second round I didn't really play well at all the front nine. So I feel like that one I kind of let go. I feel like I had a good chance of winning that one. But other than that, obviously, none of these other tournaments I have been anywhere near, cracking the top 25. So being in the position of winning, it's a different feeling for sure. So it's only happened twice so far.
Yeah, and I'm just going to read because we didn't see any coverage, or I don't know any of the real details, so I'm genuinely ignorant here, which isn't a big statement. It looked like you were leading after round one. You shot a 52. Tied for the lead after round one, shooting a 52, and that was unofficially rated a 1032 round. How did that feel to you?
The first hole's pretty much like a gimme. They start off with a nice it's a low ceiling, 310-foot shot, but you should pretty much get it. And I threw it straight into the ground pretty much, had a circle 2 putt. And then the second hole is a 480-foot wide open shot. So it's pretty much a big bomb shot. But it's a pretty highly elevated basket, which I do love, but being in Oklahoma, it's pretty windy. So running that putt is kind of scary. And then hole 3 is unbirdieable. You're just playing for par. And then hole 4 is a really, really tricky par 4. So coming out of the woods, because those were like the two wooded holes, hole 3 and 4. In my practice rounds that I played a practice round on Monday and I played one on Friday. I wanted to be like 2 under coming through that stretch. And I was even par through the first round. And I think having hole 5 be a short par 4 was nice for me because I was able to get a birdie and kind of get going a little bit. Because in that round, I strung, I think, 6 birdies in a row towards like the middle portion of the round. But I didn't putt well. I think my putting inside a circle was like something like 70. It was 77%. So I didn't putt well inside a circle. I missed a lot of opportunities there. But my driving off the tee, that was a huge difference in this tournament. I was hitting my lines and consistently. I think I was 78% into circle 2 and 72% into circle 1. So, which was a huge change from all the tournaments I played on the Pro Tour, where I think I was sniffing like 40%. And so I kind of got the feeling of where I wanted to get was I'm not struggling to make par. And on the Pro Tour, that's kind of what it was feeling like, was I was battling almost every hole to try to make pars. And now I feel like my consistency is getting better to where, I'm getting myself 14, 13 chances at birdies. And, I need to maybe get a little bit more than 9, but I'll take that over some of these Pro Tour events. I was looking at maybe only like 4 or 5 decent chance at birdies.
And the course that you played in Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma area, or is it in Texas?
No, it's in
Oklahoma.
Durant, Durant, Oklahoma.
Safe to say, relatively open, not a ton of tight wooded shots.
There's 6 or 7 shots that you need to kind of hit a gap.
Okay.
And there was a couple of them too that were new for me, where it is wide open, but then you have to hit a very tiny gap, maybe 20 feet wide, 300 feet away or 400 feet away, which was kind of a new experience for me because, the courses I've been playing are either wide open or heavily wooded the whole time. But yeah, it was kind of probably similar to like a DDO kind of feel where, but I would say DDO, but add a couple holes like number, is it 10?
9.
The really hard par 4? Is it
9?
9 after par 5? Yeah. Add a couple holes like that. And even 7, where you kind of have that initial gap like that you have to hit. There's a few holes kind of like that as well. But yeah, relatively other than that, pretty wide open. But if you do go in the rough over there, you're not getting out, and you might not even actually find your disc. It's a brand new course. So they really haven't had people walking through the rough. And so it's super thick. I mean, one of our practice rounds, we went out there super early in the morning and the sun was kind of hitting just right. And you would look in and you would see like 40 spider webs, like just covered all over the place and thorn bushes and all that stuff. So you really had to have a special disc that you would want to go in after.
Now you just talked about some of the numbers and the successes that you had. And I'd back up even one more step and say, why do you feel like you had some of those successes or some of those impressive numbers and so on and so forth? Like, what led to you performing that well? You said you struggled with your putting, which we all know, putting can be off and on any given day. But
it was windy, so everyone was having a hard time with putting that tournament.
Okay, so was there anything that you either mentally or physically had really adapted or changed in the last few weeks, even where you feel like, okay, something clicked? Or what was that? Was there anything?
Yeah, I think the time spent in the field, the first thing I did when I got home was actually throw my disc. That was actually advice that Hunter gave me, saying you need to just go out in the field and throw all the discs that you currently have in your bag, throw them all flat, throw them all Anheuser, throw them all Heiser, and see how they actually react. because I hadn't actually ever done that before. I would do it on the course when I'm like, oh, I think I need to throw this onyx flat and have it, but I never really actually just threw all my discs and just watched to see how they flew. So that really helped to kind of get an idea of, okay, this is what this one's going to do, flat, hyzer, anhyzer. And then I've just been throwing a lot. I mean, that was the biggest reason why I left the Pro Tour for these last couple events. One, the quarantining situation it's not something that I think anyone is too thrilled that they have to do. So that was already something that I was kind of, I don't know if I want to do that, but when you're on tour and you're traveling and you're playing, I've never played these courses before, so I'm spending all my time on the course trying to learn what to throw on this hole. What do I need to do on my upshot? What does this hole look like? Where is the OB? And you don't really actually have time to go into a field afterwards. And really, honestly, you probably don't even want to do that because you'll probably wear yourself out. I don't know who it was. I think you guys had someone on the last week or maybe the week before, and they were just talking about not wanting to like wear themselves out going into a tournament. They have a very like specific, like, this is what I'm going to do. And then I go home and I, rehab and I sleep and I wake up. So the idea of like going onto a field after you've had maybe 2 practice rounds and throwing for another 2 hours and doing that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the tournament's Thursday, doesn't really work. So that was the biggest thing for me is I knew I needed to get home and actually get reps in because it's been such a long time. I mean, it was like almost like a month of me just going to these tournaments and traveling and playing and then going to the next one. It was a really long time since I've actually practiced, like legitimately practiced.
Yeah, so, and like you're saying, basically learning on the course and learning on the tour isn't really the time.
It's not the best scenario for you.
Yeah, and that's what you were forced into. Yeah. But yet you had such a drive to compete.
Yeah, and I don't think I would change anything because I think I learned a lot mentally and what I need to work on by going on tour. But next year, when I go back on tour and start playing these events, that is not the time for me to be like, hey, let me try to figure out my form. Or it's all tweaking stuff. It should be like little things like, hey, I've been early releasing. Maybe I'm doing this wrong, whatever. But you don't want to be on tour and stepping up to a tee box and go, I have no idea where this disc could go. It could go straight. I could early release it into a tree. I mean, there was one hole, the Kevin Jones hole at Idlewild, the one that he kept hitting that tree.
The tree.
15, yeah.
I think my average distance off the tee pad was 20 feet for the 2 rounds I played that hole.
Oh, does it have to get renamed?
No.
I definitely.
You're challenging him?
I mean, he hit the first available that you would think is available, but I went even earlier than that.
You're like, I can outdo that Kevin Jones. What does that guy know?
I didn't even think that tree was even possible to hit off the tee, but I did. So
that's the first unavailable. That's not even the first available.
So Idlewild and Ledgestone are probably the 2 worst tournaments to go to when you're on the tee box going, I have no idea where my disc is going. And not knowing really how to fix it. So that was the difference, I think, with this tournament that I just played in, is I'm seeking a line 300, 400, however many feet away, and I'm pinpointing a certain spot. And I know that a bad shot is either going to come up a little short, maybe a little left, a little right, but I'm not shanking anything. I'm not really throwing these awful shots, and that's what you really need to do to kind of get to a high level is your misses need to be way smaller. And my misses on tour, on the Pro Tour, were massive, like literally probably some of the worst misses out of anyone in the event. But then I would also turn around and throw some really, really great shot.
Yeah, sorry. 1 second. You're locked. Oh, we're just seeing if that's you or us.
Yeah,
that's locking up just a little bit.
I'm not sure. I can text Kelsey to make sure she's not on the internet.
She's playing like modern. Yeah,
she's posting Instagram.
No, I think she's gaming. She's
she's throwing down some Call of Duty.
Yeah, probably.
She's not really a gamer at all. No. She'll play board games, but she's not really. Crash Bandicoot's the only real game she'll actually get into.
Oh, geez, yeah. You pull out the old Sega Genesis for that, or maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
No, so what you're saying obviously all makes sense about, and the old saying about practice is where you earn your trophies, and that the competitions where you pick them up, that kind of thing. Like basically you have to, that's what our off seasons are for. And you're, when you're in season, if you're off just a little bit, you're tweaking and you're making light adjustments. You're here, kind of learning as you go, which has been a tall task. But again, that goes back to how competitive you want to be, and just, I think overall how excited you are about disc golf. And, maybe some of that enthusiasm got just a little ahead of yourself, which is totally. So let's back up just a little bit. You talked about the quarantining. What were some of the thoughts that were all going through your head when you kind of made an official announcement about like, hey, I think I'm going to back off of the pro tour? Because some people then wondered, well, is there a bigger issue at hand? Is there internal or external things, factors? Like, I mean, it's a statement, and it's like there's just enough gray zone where somebody could like blow it up into something it maybe really wasn't. So. What do you?
Yeah, well, there was definitely a handful. I definitely got a handful of comments of people being like, "Oh, you're quitting disc golf," and then I feel like the people that were pissed off at me playing the pro tour were now the same people pissed off at me for quitting the pro tour.
Of course, yep.
And again, it's only 2 events. There was MVP and GMC were the only 2 events I was going to do. But yeah, I think for me, the reasoning behind everything is like I hit a breaking point. Like I was saying, I was battling every hole, it felt like, to try to get par. And when I'm sure you guys have all played off rounds where you're just like, what the heck is wrong with me today? Imagine that is every single tournament round. And you're literally, it's not like when you're in practice and you're like, oh, I'm off. It's like, whatever. When you're in a tournament, you are scrapping and trying to do everything you can to shoot the best score possible. And it's exhausting. It's literally exhausting. And having Idlewild and Ledgestone back to back, of where every single round, like Idlewild, I didn't play terrible, I guess, but walking off that course, there were so many shots that I was way offline, and I was just able to somehow make a miraculous scramble or a great putt or something. And doing that over and over and over again, it got so frustrating because I was like, I'm not seeing myself improve. And if I continue to just keep thinking like, hey, just go to the next tournament and try again and think like different results are going to happen, I'm smart enough and I've done enough in sports to know that's not how it's going to work. And the way I described it was like I kept showing up to a gunfight with a knife, going to a hole and having Paul be like, all right, this is the type of shot you want to throw. And me in my head, I've never thrown this shot before. Like I've never once thrown this shot. So now I have to do it in a tournament, like doing that over and over and over again. I knew it wasn't what I needed. And, I went into disc golf because I want to win. I think that was one of the first things we talked about. I don't even know, months ago when I was on here last, I think, that I'm here to try to win. And if me being on the pro tour isn't going to help me get better, then I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do local events and be able to practice, and put in a lot of hours and time at home to get better. And then once I actually get to that point, then I can go back and play in those bigger events and kind of see where my skills are and see where I need to continue to improve on.
Well, and speaking of local events, I guess that brings me to my next question, kind of getting back to this weekend and beyond. In looking at your season, as you have, at least in your upcoming events, I see the Louisville Open, the Ron Russell Roofing presents.
I won't
the
be able to go to that one.
Okay, you're not doing Jacksonville, okay. Yeah. The McKinney Classic, the Texas Annual State Championships, and then the Open at Belton, which I don't know if that got rescheduled.
Yeah, I think it's later.
Okay, because that was otherwise going to be way back in March.
It's usually in March,
right after Waco. So, do you see yourself? I mean, is your plan maybe outside of Jacksonville? You just mentioned. Do you see yourself hitting up all those events then still?
Yeah, I mean, today I just actually registered for most of those, I think.
Okay.
And I think there's one more potential one that I might be trying to play with my buddy who lives out in Vegas. It's like the Halloween Classic.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's at his home course, and he's one of my buddies from Ultimate Frisbee, and he just started getting into it. So I think he's playing in whatever the lowest is. It rec? Is that the lowest
novice
division?
or rec maybe?
Novice,
yeah, novice or rec or something.
So,
okay.
But yeah, I've been telling him I want to get out there and play with him and bring him some discs and stuff because he's just throwing like my starter pack basically.
Sure.
Been throwing. So, yeah, all those tournaments I'm going to be going to, and I feel like I did a decent job of kind of scheduling a couple to where I'll have some time in between some of the bigger ones, like the Texas State one. Obviously, that's a big one, and the Belton one. I'll have some. I think the week prior to each one of those, I'll have that off so I can really kind of focus and put a lot of time into preparing for it. Because I think that is one of the reasons what led me to win this past weekend was my preparation going into the tournament. And honestly, that's probably one of the reasons why I had, if any successful round, because I had a couple like decent rounds on the tour, but those were all preparation based. Those were all figuring out how to play the course and playing smart. That was not a skill based. All those ratings that were decent were not skill based. That was me being smart and playing well. And I think that's what led me to kind of win this one too, is knowing what holes to attack, knowing which ones to play for par, and kind of knowing when to kind of put the pedal down as well.
So you talked about going out to a field and learning your plastic, so to speak, figuring out how all of them flew. Someone on the board gave us a super chat and asked, what disc did you lean on the most this particular weekend? Was it an overstable driver, your Buzz?
Yeah, so I've kind of tweaked a couple things with my form. I was kind of looking. I don't know if people even care about knowing what I won't tell them, but
everybody cares. Trust me.
Okay. So a couple things I've tweaked is I was a little bit kind of straight legged, I guess would be the best way. I didn't really look at athletic in my X step, and now if you kind of slow-mo some of my bigger shots, I'm actually off the ground. Both my feet are off the ground at the same time because I'm pushing and getting a good X step, where before I was kind of just like clunking and not really getting, loading myself up. Also, I was tending to kind of look at my target. So when I pulled back, I would kind of look at my target, and now I'm actually I'm trusting myself to where I know the disc is going to go where I want it to go. So now I can kind of go back, and that's allowing me to get a bigger reach back. So all that being said, like if I threw a Buzz as hard as I could a couple months ago, or even like at, Idlewild, maybe 320 feet. And now I'm getting the Buzz around 370, 380. And so a lot of holes out there were in that, 320 to like 400 range. And so I was able to, throw that to the edge of circle one short, or I was able to the 330-foot tunnel shot that was there. I was able to just throw that on a pure line straight down. So that disc, I threw, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 times, I think, off the tee.
Okay.
And yeah, that was working for me.
And it's funny, you said it exactly something I say whenever I used to do a lot of clinics and coaching and helping with people. You see people who don't want to turn their head away, and they're limited. Their range of motion. You can only pull back so far if you're not turning your head away. And I always say, you got to turn your head away, and that's fine. I said, the basket's not going to get up and run away from you in the middle of your throw. Like, just trust, like you're saying, that you can turn your head away and then that you can pull through. So that hits exactly on advice that, I think we see a lot of people. In fact, we just ran into a complete stranger out on the course the other day, and you could tell he was practicing. He was throwing multiple tee shots, and I said, if you want a word of advice, and I told him almost that exact same thing. It's something that I think a lot of people can really think about is, turning your head, and if that means away from the pin, that's totally fine to do. So
yeah. It's a habit from Ultimate Frisbee too, because in Ultimate Frisbee you actually don't ever want to leave your eyes from your target, because if your cutter, for example, is coming in and then you turn to throw to him and he decides to cut deep, now you're throwing it to no one. So that was something I actually talked the opposite in Ultimate Frisbee is keep your eyes always on who your receiver is, like always watch them. So yeah, it's just a habit you got to break.
And then, so you said your buddy who you're meeting out, just touching on that again for Vegas, is he an Ultimate convert as well, or was he just a buddy from outside of Ultimate?
No, we played on the national championship team in at Florida together. Okay, yeah. There's actually
awesome.
a handful of guys now that Ultimate Frisbee is just one of those things of where there really isn't a career path that you can actually make it your job. So if you want to continue doing it, you have to pay a lot of money to continue doing it. And the training that goes into it, because like with disc golf, there's not that much conditioning that you really have to do. But in Ultimate Frisbee, you got to be running, you got to be lifting weights, you got to be doing everything. And then you also have to actually practice with the team. So it's a lot of time. And yeah, it's tough to continue to do that kind of out of college, especially when you kind of start getting a serious girlfriend or a wife.
Or you're the brokest you've ever been, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
those things.
So some people are starting to switch over to disc golf now because they haven't played Ultimate Frisbee in 5, 6, 7 years. And they're like, oh, disc golf? Yeah, I'll give that a try. So it's cool to see.
So speaking of all the glamour and the glitz and the fame and the money, $793, that's a solid payout. Did you, I mean, it's not pro tour, national tour, major payout, but I mean, it's a solid payout for a weekend of work in disc golf. Have you set any goals or adjusted any goals about, how much you cared to win or cash or events played? Did you have any of those goals? And I know they all got adjusted, with COVID this year, but is there anything that comes to mind for you as a goal? Anything tangible?
I mean, I kind of have my own goals that I'm probably not going to share, but I have some big goals too that I can share. Like for me, 2 years was kind of when I thought I would actually start competing. So that was kind of my mind is 2 years of training, practice, playing in tournaments. So that would be what, 2022, right? Yeah, the start of 2022 season, that's kind of when I think if all things are going well and, I stay healthy, because that was something that kind of knocked me back quite a bit, unfortunately. But yeah, if all things going well, 2022 is kind of in my mind when I think I really should start seeing a lot of results. So I'm just kind of trying to stay positive between then, because that's kind of what it was for Ultimate Frisbee with me is like my first 2 years playing Ultimate Frisbee were kind of like, and then my third season was when I really saw a big jump. And then obviously each year after that, I got better and better. So 2022 is kind of like the big goal ahead of like that year's the year that I really want to start actually at least competing at the highest level.
Okay. And I apologize. I want to make a correction. I was misreading your stats for this year. Have you winning 793 total in the handful of events? And I was misreading that your first place efforts were $500 this weekend, which is
still not bad.
Yeah. I mean,
twice what he had earned previously.
It's more than you made in your first 5 years of Ultimate, right?
Yeah.
Right? You don't win any.
Yeah. I think you don't. Yeah. You just win trophies. You don't play Ultimate. Yeah, when people question the reasoning for why you're competing, if you come from Ultimate Frisbee, that person only cares about winning. Like they don't care about the trophies or the money, because there's none of that.
No, that makes perfect sense.
You talked about 2022. I want to, as Terry said, step back 1 year. Just yesterday, we saw the 2021 Japan Open for registration. I
saw that.
Are you thinking about signing up? Have you? I mean, it's a
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna be hiding until 2022.
No, I know.
Yeah, 2022 is when I actually will start being able to compete at some of these bigger tournaments. But yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how that whole tournament works. I'll probably actually have to talk to Discraft to kind of see, hey, do you guys want me to fly to this thing? Because that's, it's a little bit a different story than flying to.
Yeah, it's like $1,000 or $1,200 to fly to Japan, and then the tournament is $300 and then lodging and everything like that.
But everything I've heard from, I think Paul went out there one year. They say that, and we actually got the same kind of. I went out to Japan to play in the Dream Cup, where they basically select like the 12 or 13 best U.S. players. And they fly us all out, and we play their national championship team basically over there at this big event. And I mean, it was they do an amazing job. I think just their culture over there, they just want everything to be done right, and they just have like amazing hospitality. Every time I've been over there, I've only been there 2 or 3 times. The hospitality that they show their guests is just unbelievable. So I can only imagine how incredible the tournament is. So if I can go, that would be definitely a kind of a dream tournament for sure.
Yeah, and I guess I'll follow that up and ask, how much of disc golf events are you looking at from an experience and a cultural, enhancement versus like diehard competition? Do you know what I mean? Like right now, Johnny and I, for instance, are in the stage of like, we've been to Japan, we played there 10 years ago. I'm going there as an experience, play a secondary. When you line up events, competition's your number one focus right now still, right?
Yeah. I mean, if there was an event in Emporia every week and that's where everyone was playing, I would be going there every week.
Okay.
I don't need to go to big cities, or I don't need to be like seeing new stuff or experiencing new things. For me, like, even if I went to that Japan tournament, for example, I probably wouldn't really be doing that much outside of actually practicing for the tournament, and preparing for the tournament. I mean, that's just how I am. I might stay a couple days afterwards and then kind of do some of the sightseeing and stuff like that. For sure. But I mean, to me, it's a business trip,
Okay. And that I guess immediately piggybacks and gives me my insight to my other question, which would have been, would you consider going to a GMC and not playing, to either walk or practice the course or to hang out, to watch any of the action, but not be there physically competing? And that doesn't sound like it would even really interest you, does it?
When you say that, like, the first thing that comes to mind is all the time I will be traveling and not actually practicing.
Yep. Okay.
So to me, I would have to figure out, does that outweigh the experience I'm going to get of playing a course like that or practicing with some of the pros or whatnot? And to me right now, I think it definitely helps playing with people better than you, for sure. But there's some really, really good people here in the Dallas area that I've kind of connected with, and hopefully playing some rounds with them soon. But yeah, to me right now, the thing that's going to get me the best, like the next plateau, I would say, the next step is just continuing to get repetitions, because right now my forehand is the next thing that I need. I want my forehand to be where my backhand is right now, where I'm confident that 9 out of 10 times it's going to go where I want it to go.
And obviously very different, completely different shots, completely different tools and equipment. And which is interesting, because forehand, like, you might as well not even play ultimate if you don't have a good forehand. I learned that the hard way. But yet I've heard you talk about it in the past. They don't really translate, forehand in disc golf and forehand in ultimate. Is that right? Can you?
The upshots do, because a lot of
people,
a little
more finesse.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with upshots because they use a lot of arm or they throw nose down. And it's, if you can throw nose up with, like, again, I'm talking about like throwing like a zone. It doesn't work if you're trying to throw an upshot with like a fairway driver. But that, to me, like, I kind of got a false idea that my forehand was good because I was only throwing basically zones forehands, and I was getting. And so like right now I'm in a weird stage of where I'm trying to change my form, have it be more arm, less wrist, have it open up my shoulder more, where in ultimate, like you can't really get a big wind up. You want to be able to just like snap and like be able to throw. And again, like ultimate, if you have a 210-foot forehand, you're an elite ultimate forehand. And so I was able to throw like 240, 260 standstill forehands. So I never really was like, oh, I need to figure out how I can throw my forehand further. I already threw it really far. So now, like switching to disc golf, a 210-foot forehand is nothing. So now it's like, okay, now I have to actually change my form, change everything up, and work on that. And just, again, like I said, get the repetitions down to where 9 out of 10 times I'm throwing it where I want to.
Well, speaking of reps, and then you mentioned kind of about playing local courses and getting the practice in at the courses, and even with some of the people, you know, we were talking as you opened the show about Coda Hatfield and the legend that he really is, and then you had some other really solid competitors this weekend. What do you feel? I mean, you've experienced it all now. You've been everywhere from on a feature card, live, post-production, all of those, all the way to, you know, events that may have had zero coverage. What's the vibe? What's the feeling? How are you received at any one event versus another? Does any of that matter?
You know, I still don't have, I haven't really had like any bad experiences with anyone. Like I haven't had anyone come up to me. And that was something that I tweeted out recently, is like, hey, if you have an issue with me, just come up to me and talk to me in person. We can hash it out. I don't know what I did to make you upset or why you're pissed off at me, but like, let's at least have a conversation, because then maybe we can find some common ground. But yeah, at all these tournaments, you know, I haven't really found anyone that I haven't really jived with, as far as people that I've talked to. Now I have played with some people that, you know, when they don't play well, it's not the most enjoyable experience to play with them, but
name names.
It's Yuli. We know it is. I mean, it just clearly.
I haven't played with Yuli yet. I haven't been on the court with him.
Okay.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Probably Michael Joe, another teammate, Michael Joe. He's a real jerk to play with.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, no, everyone I've talked to have been really cool. And, you know, when I played with Kevin at Ledgestone, we had some conversations about certain things. He came and asked me some questions about like, what do you think about this? Should the sport be doing this or this or this? And we kind of just talked about different ideas. And then Bo was another guy. I got to play 2 rounds with him at Magnolia Open. And, you know, he's an Oklahoma legend as well, winning tons and tons of tournaments in that state. So talking to him was awesome. And again, just like talking about different things about, you know, he wants the, you know, a lot of these people all want the same things. The problem is it's difficult to come out and say it, because at the end of the day, a lot of them are supported by the fans. And so if you do come out with something that some people might not like, you're kind of putting yourself in a weird position. But it's been cool talking to a lot of these professionals and hearing that they all really want the sport to go at the highest level. They all kind of want the sport to go in the same direction. And that's cool to see, because in ultimate, I butted heads with a lot of people. A lot of people wanted it to stay grassroots and stay the way it is. And, you know, if new people are coming in and they don't have the same ideas as we have, we don't want them in here. And it's been nice and refreshing to kind of talk to some of these top pro guys and hear that they do really want the sport to grow.
And it's funny, because you see this particular week was one of those where you started to see some people come out of the shadows with the whole CBS deal. There are people like that in disc golf, that they don't want to see the sport grow. They don't want to see their local courses start to fill up. You know, they're not thinking, well, I can't say they're not thinking big picture, but to me, it feels like they're not thinking big picture. Like, if your courses fill up, hopefully that means more courses. They don't necessarily see that, and maybe they can adjust for that in their particular city. But I did see a lot of that this particular week with with all the talks of disc golf getting bigger and major broadcasts and stuff like that. So it's interesting, some of the parallels.
And I want to ask you about just that.
Yeah.
Like,
go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt, but I will just ask exactly what he said. CBS, you've had more success on a national scale in terms of national television and programs and games and shows and everything else. Do you feel like what happened with CBS, is that something that might move the needle? That's the word I'm looking for, because we can all agree it was done well. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to argue it wasn't. So that's kind of a given. Do you feel something like that, either that or something like it? Do you feel like that might move the needle? And the follow up to that is, what is your what makes that successful? What would you consider a success?
So
with that effort,
I think it definitely has potential. It definitely has the ability to at least get in front of some people that matter. I mean, that's the biggest thing. At the end of the day, you're trying to get in front of some eyeballs that matter, right? At some point when CrossFit made the big jump, when Reebok came on, someone at Reebok saw something and brought it to either it was the actual person that made decisions, or they brought it to the person that made decisions and said, hey, this is something that we should look into. That is what you really need. And obviously the more viewers and stuff like that I think helps move the needle. This might be something that a lot of people, and again, like, I just feel like for things to progress and for things to improve, you got to have people saying ideas, and they can either be shut down and say, no, that's a dumb idea, let's not do that, or at least start a conversation about maybe that is something we should look into. And I think when we don't want people to have ideas and we want it to just keep going the same way we've been doing it, I think that's just a silly, I think it's a silly mindset. And I've gotten that a lot from some people being like, you shouldn't have an idea because your rating is low, or you shouldn't have an idea because you've been in the sport for so little time. Mm-hmm. And you look at any sort of business, they'll hire a new CEO and that person immediately starts making different decisions. And they just joined the company. And yeah, I know I just joined disc golf, but I have been in sports for a long time. I have been in the entertainment business for a long time. And all my ideas, are they good? No. But will they spark good ideas? They might. And so one of my ideas that I've talked to some people about, and some people like it and some people don't, is I think the biggest thing right now disc golf has going for it is the Pro Tour. And I think it's getting to the point of where the product of live coverage is getting good enough to where people will actually tune in and watch it for a full broadcast.
Oh, I got to adjust my headphones. My head's getting bigger here. Oh, sorry.
Where in the past, it might not have been there, but I feel like there's very few things. Like literally, if you guys just added one extra camera to one exciting hole and filmed every single shot, basically kind of like what Jomez did on hole 16, and they did that little montage of all the people throwing in the water and whatnot. Instead of doing like a short little montage, you had at least all these shots, so that when there is a weird part in the broadcast of where nothing's happening on the lead card, nothing's happening on the chase card, you can say, hey, earlier today, let's go to the number 2 player in the world, Calvin, and let's look at what he did on this hole. And then you can do that while other stuff is happening because you have that already pre-recorded. No one cares that happened 4 hours earlier.
Exactly.
We just want to see shots. Another thing that I had is Terry's on the ground. I want to hear what Terry thinks right as things are happening. I feel like right now you're doing a lot of recap stuff. And I would love to hear, instead of the commentators trying to figure out from Oregon or wherever they're filming from, what's going on from like the only cameras that they have, that's where I want them to be like, Terry, what's going on right now? And then you can do the whole Roger Mulpey thing, or all the golfers being like, well, Paul right now is he's got a really weird lie. Like that, I think is so interesting to kind of hear what's going on. And then this is the big thing, and some people are going to hate me for saying this, and that's fine. I don't think for the Pro Tour events, we should be allowing people to have post-production.
Wow.
Yeah,
if there was no post-production,
live would be 10 times bigger.
Would people tune in to watch live?
Yes. We've been saying this for a lot of years.
Stand in line, buddy. Stand in line. No, I can.
So that's my thing is right now we're spreading numbers all across the
Sure.
thing.
Yeah.
Versus, and if we were able to go from what have you guys been hitting 16,000?
Yeah, depending on the event, anywhere from 10 to 15,000
live concurrent
at
one
peaks,
at one point.
And then usually the total views are in like 60 to 80,000.
Yeah, so if we could hit 50, and I feel like we could hit 50 pretty easily if you wanted to watch the lead card of the GMC, and the only way you knew you were going to watch it was like every other sporting event pretty much, watching it live. And I'm not saying like taking away completely, because you're still going to have stuff like Tiger Woods every shot or Paul Macbeth every shot and have other like compilations like that. But if you want to get the story and get to see what's happening, you have to watch it live. I feel like so many people would tune in because there isn't another option. And now that number is a bigger number. And now you can take that number and sell that number to a sponsor.
Yeah,
that's kind of my thought. That's how every other sport happens.
Yeah, and you're not alone in what you're thinking, and clearly, and we've said this for at least 3, 4, 5 years now, since starting our live company in 2014. Disc golf has painted itself into a corner with post-production. And post-production has gotten so good, thanks large in part to efforts by Jomez and Central Coast and others that are playing catch-up or lag behind. We've painted ourselves into this spoiled corner of really great production that used to be 36 hours, then became 24 hours, and it became 18 hours later. And people consume it that way. And we've said, of course, here too, and I make post-production, so I like that I can wear both hats, but if post-production was delayed a week, A, they could do even cooler, more fancy things with it, and B,
as we saw with the CBS broadcast,
and B, you would see live numbers go through the roof. Now, they'd still complain that it's too long and there'd be all these other reasons not to have it, and I understand those reasons. I truly do. Some people say, on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, I want to be out playing disc golf. I don't want to commit to 3.5 hours to watch a live round. They'll continue to say that. I get it. Well, then they can choose. Do they want to wait a week, or do they want to schedule for it?
Those people also probably be the people that tune in to the last hour.
Yeah.
To see what happens. I mean, that's
probably.
I've done that at golf events. I don't want to watch 4 hours of this tournament, but I do want to see what happens. So I'll watch the last hour. And I'm not saying get rid of post-production for disc golf completely. I mean, I just watched a really cool course. I don't even remember the tournament. Simon won it.
Lost Valley.
Gatekeeper.
Yep, Lost Valley. Great work. Yep.
Yeah. I just watched that course, and that course was incredible. And I'm glad that I was able to see video coverage of an incredible course and watch the shots and stuff. I'm not saying get rid of it, but if you look at any other sport, there's a reason why, CBS has the rights to show the NFL and Fox has the rights to show their games. And the PGA Tour gives the rights to have one. I mean,
NBC Golf.
You turn on the Golf Central sometimes thinking that you're going to see the golf coverage, and they don't have the ability to show it to you. And you're like, what the heck? And you're now scrambling to try to find where the golf is. There's a reason why they don't have 18 people all showing different things for the golf or for any sport. And especially they don't give out the rights for anyone to do stuff with it afterwards. Especially the PGA Tour, they are the hardest people with their stuff.
I've actually been doing a lot of research on the PGA lately for other reasons, for like media management and asset related stuff. I've been watching a lot of interviews with their media people and how they handle it. And it's funny because being in live, I want to push back just a touch. I don't think that there necessarily shouldn't be post-production like next day, but in my humble opinion, you almost need to lock that behind the Disc Golf Network door because like Major League Baseball does it, NFL does it, PGA does it. Like you can get just the shots, NBA does it, but you just have to be a subscriber to that league. Like, cool, we're going to give you the, hey, here are just the shots if you want to, an edited version, and then maybe have it release a week later, a week and a half later to the public, so to speak. It's so tough right now. It is. It's really tough because they do such a good job.
And you're on this weird thing of where without those guys, without all of them, disc golf would not be as popular as it was.
100%.
So I get the whole idea of like, well, we want to keep supporting them, and I'm not saying not to keep supporting them, but we are on a weird thing of name me another sport where the production company is actually people you know. Who's running the production at the NFL Network? Who's running the production for the NBA? NBA employees. They're all employees of the Pro Tour. And it's just one of those things of where it's just a tricky thing of there's going to come a time where if the sport wants to continue to grow at the highest level, at the Pro Tour, right? The Pro Tour is going to need to hire people, and they're going to need to be their film crew.
Yeah. Well, even I know
that's the people that run it.
A lot of the major sports, they do sub out some of the trucks that they have. I mean, there are some baseball games that are not done by MLB or they're done by NBC. But I understand what you're saying. And you're right. We're in a tough spot right now, and I think that
it's a weird spot.
It is, and things are going to change. Like it's eventually, I think the Ultra World put out that article about how much leverage the Disc Golf Network will have, and eventually people are going to have to start paying for rights to do this, whether it's post-production, if we keep it, which I'm assuming. I have not heard anything. Everybody, I haven't heard anything about anything in the future. I think everyone plans on keeping post-production for at least another year or two. All right?
Yeah.
But having
what do you
having
guys
people
think? Do you think that is something that if you were able to say right now, we can get 50,000 live viewers watching every tournament, and for bigger tournaments, we can get 75, 80,000. And the only thing you have to do is like you said, make it to where post-production's 2 weeks after the event or a week after the event or whatever it may be to get that way. Is that something that you think will be able to move the needle like we were talking about earlier for the Disc Golf Pro Tour?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you start putting up those type of concurrent live numbers, definitely. I think that you start to sniff some decent sponsorship there. I mean, it's go ahead and take a look at a lot of these esports and that have 20, 30, 50, 100,000 viewers all at once. And some of them, which, like the championships, like League of Legends and Hearthstone, which are pushing 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 concurrent viewers. And there's more people playing those games than probably playing disc golf. And and by nature, it is a digital medium. It's a computer medium. So you're used to sitting in front because you can actually play while you watch in a lot of those. But it's, it's...
But on the social media side, if you're like, hey, my video is going to get 50,000 views, there are companies out there that will pay you thousands of dollars for those 50,000 views. So if you have a 4-day tournament where you're getting 50, 50, 50, 50, you might be able to get a sponsorship from someone for $20,000 for one tournament.
Yeah, and
I know that's not big, but that's better than
that's absolutely
better than nothing.
Yeah. Well, and again, there are so many conflicting ways to look at it because, like you said, there are so many people that have put blood, sweat, and tears into it, and to respectfully recognize and yet support and yet try to move forward, that is just a very fine line as we all edge closer, because as the chat and everyone else can say, this isn't a matter of liking or disliking a Joe Mez or a CCDG or any of the other channels. It's just a matter of how do we all grow together in the most cohesive manner. And at the end of the day, we're also all trying in our own ways to run successful businesses. The Pro Tour is a business. SmashBoxx is a business. Joe Mez is a business. The Disc Golf Guy is. Brodie's a brand, and Foundation is. Like, there's a lot of moving parts here, and too many people think, well, it's just an obvious black and white. And as this conversation shows, it's not. It's It's a little muddy.
I'll pose a question to you, and I think we kind of talked about a little bit about like behind the paywall and stuff, especially for like a pay-per-view boxing or a pay-per-view UFC. If you don't pay and watch live, you can't see it unless you illegally download it or someone illegally uploads it. Mm-hmm. There's nothing. There might be some highlights that you might be able to see on ESPN, but you don't see it. And same thing for like an NFL game. If you want to rewatch an NFL game that you didn't record, right, yourself, are you able to do that on a random Bleacher Report and they have the full NFL game for you, or something other than the actual what's the word I'm looking for? Like the NFL, something other than them. Is there some way else that you can watch a game in any sport?
Not that I know of. It might exist. I mean, there might be something like swimming or women's pro tennis or something along those lines that I'm not aware of. But the major sports? No, there's nothing like that.
And is the reason because all of them do that is the reason because they want everyone tuning in at one time to get that number as big as possible. Yep. Because we all know if you have 999,999 viewers, if you get one more and bump up to million, that there's levels. So certain levels, when you get more, you're going to get a lot more money. Yep. And so that was, to me, it's just like, man, if we could just if everyone, because you look at the numbers on YouTube of people watching disc golf videos right now, there's people consuming it.
Yep.
If we could get all those people consuming live coverage at one time, I don't know. I just feel like that could change a lot of things in a positive way.
I'd love to try it for an event, for a big event, like we'll just say the GMC coming up or the MVP Open. Just say, hey, guess what? Only live and see what not see what happens, because I know what would happen. It would set fire to the internet.
Yeah.
And my computer would literally start smoking, and there might be people outside my house with torches, and thankfully I don't make those decisions. Thanks everybody in the world, thanks for that. But just to see what the numbers look like. Just say, hey guys, this is the only place you're getting it. Let's see what happens. This is
if you have 100,000 people that are like, I'm only going to watch post-production, and then you say that, even if it's 50-50, like 50 people being like, oh, okay, I'll watch live then. And then 50 people being like, you're the worst human ever. We hate you. Mm-hmm. That's still 50,000 people. And the people that hate, and the 50,000 people that hate you, there's still probably gonna be some people that be like, all right, fine. I actually want to see what's going on.
Absolutely.
You honestly, I know this sounds funny, but you kind of proved that at Waco. When they put you on the lead card,
feature card,
or the feature card first round. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah, I've never been on the lead card.
Sorry, not live.
Strike the record. We'd like to be clear that for Brody Smith,
I have never been on a lead card.
There were a lot of people that were very upset that we put you on the feature card. There were people that had swore up and down that they were never going to watch the Disc Golf Network, never going to pay for it. We put you on there, and we saw those numbers jump, and it's hard to tell if it was like, hey, everybody's ready for more golf, or if it's a Brody factor, or what it all entails. But the numbers are panning out. So
yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting topic, and one that I think people need to start talking about to just see, because disc golf is growing, and if we're not willing to make changes and do things differently, I don't think we could miss out on some really cool opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, and I was thinking earlier, a summary of everything you were talking about is just basically coming in and being willing to challenge the status quo. And you with a fresh perspective, and any person that has a background, whether it's sports or athletics or marketing or business, like you said, when someone new comes in, that's a great time to challenge the status quo. Now, we might beat you down because your idea turns out that it was stupid, or it has been tried and exhausted and doesn't work, or it may have a lot of great validity to it, and we do think about moving forward with it.
And times change. We had said that about the Disc Golf Network. We said a couple of years ago, having people pay for live probably won't work. They tried it back when we were pushing out through 3G signal and the quality was like the size of a postage stamp. Nobody bought it. There was like 800 people. It's never going to make money. And the Disc Golf Network has proved. I mean, they're almost. I don't even know what the numbers are. I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but they're they have thousands and thousands of subscribers. They're good. Yeah, they're very good. I could look right now, and I'm just not.
They're well over their expectations for the year.
Yeah, I know. I set those expectations. I told Jeff Spring asked me.
You were the number guy.
He asked me. He's like, "What do you think?" And our numbers will be. I'm like, I think if we hit like 1,500 subs this year, that's a good spot to hit. And man, if we can get to 2,000, that's a pretty good stretch goal. That's what I said, and it was
now we're here. We're pushing 15,000.
Pushing 15,000. Like my mind is blown.
Awesome.
And to maybe put a pin in it, this topic at least it's also very sometimes delicate and awkward for us specifically to talk about it because we're the live crew, and so people can misconstrue that as, oh, we don't like post-production or we have a problem with another team or whatever, or we're being selfish. None of which, if people know us, they know that's not where our end goal is to, be jerks to other people. It's to grow the sport and do whatever makes for the best, most compelling broadcast and product. But when we talk about it specifically, it probably comes off as a little self-serving or selfish. So,
and there's a lot of people that have the same that I've talked to that love the idea as well. They're just either, uncomfortable saying it on their social platforms, or maybe they don't have social platforms. But, Ricky winning Ledgestone and walking away with $6,000, you're kind of like, right? Like that's
not to us, because we've been in it for so long. So for a lot of us we're thinking like 6,000, that's one of the, that's
bigger
like
payouts.
That's like the 18th biggest payout of all time, or whatever that number is. Like we look at it from a very long-term perspective, because we've seen the numbers that when you would win a big event, it would be $1,500. But when you come in fresh and someone asks you, oh, you won like the largest purse? What was that? And you're like, I took home $6,000. You're right. Other people are gonna be like as a bonus.
Yeah, just a different perspective. And what I'm trying to say is, if we can get that $20,000 sponsorship from someone, the Disc Golf Pro Tour keeps half of it, and they put the other half in the purse, and then we pay out first. I mean, there's a different things of like payout structure and all that stuff. I don't want to get into that, but we do something differently. And now Ricky's walking away with over $10,000. Let's say he walks away with $11,000. Almost twice as much. Like, I think that's. I'm trying to remember. Did they say how much Paige and Paul won? I don't think they did.
You're saying on the...
I don't think they said how much
on the CBS broadcast?
Yeah.
Probably.
I don't know if they did or not. They probably
I don't
didn't.
think they did.
I don't think they did. And I think there was a strategic reason to do that, because as soon as you say that number, people are like, what?
It looks small.
Are we unimpressive at that point?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm watching a cornhole tournament and the guy wins, he starts freaking out, and they're like, hand him a check for $2,500 as the national champion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but when Johnsonville Brats hands him the $50,000 check,
coming up, and the winner's getting $10 million.
Yeah.
We gotta keep stuff in perspective, and I know we're not there yet. Disc golf is not there yet, but to get there, some things I feel like need to kind of change. That's all I'm saying. And I think Ricky winning that tournament with that big of a field. And again, I know I listened to your guys' interview with him, and he sounded super happy with how everything was. But I'll be the first to tell you, he got gypped.
Okay.
$6,000 for winning that hard of a tournament with that many people. In my eyes, he got gypped.
Here's what my rebuttal, and that's a great a great take of yours. My rebuttal is, I think we're still at a challenge of, if I'm going to make up a number and say if $100,000 fell out of the sky, even though Nate is arguably the biggest fundraiser in disc golf, Discraft, Grip, ginormous sponsor of the event, right? It's the most saturated sponsored event in our sport, and Ricky takes home that effort. Here's my hypothetical. another $100,000 just falls out of the sky, where does that go? And I'll throw out some ideas. More cameras and more broadcast, more post-production. Does it go to Ricky? Does it go or
do you pay
Paul?
Deeper in the field? Do you pay?
Does it go
deeper in the top quarter?
Does 50 extra go to the FPO winner and 50 extra go to the MPO winner, and there's your 100 and it's just gone? Like, where do you throw out
both
yeah.
divisions.
I mean, that's a whole nother story, and you're obviously on the MPO side, but. The FPO side has to be.
But you come from an ultimate world where there's a lot of push for equality in that particular sport. Like, it is heavily pushed in ultimate. The equality.
I know.
So
I had many conversations with people trying to understand.
I know
why certain people should just be allowed to get stuff because of their gender. So
my question is, where does $100,000 go? Right? Because we round up 50 people, we're going to have 50 different answers where $100,000 extra goes. That's my worry. But go ahead. What do you think?
So I think some of it has to go to the production, because if you are able to get an extra, like I think you literally just need like 2 extra cameras.
Okay. Before it was one. Now you've doubled. By the end of the podcast, you're going to be like, if you had 4 more cameramen and 6 more mics.
You guys only have 1 camera on the chase card though, most of the time?
It depends.
Or is it 1 camera on like Chris Dickerson basically on Sunday?
Yeah. Sunday's the Dickerson camera. Just he actually pays for it. It follows him around. Now usually we go. It's like 3 and 1 usually to start out with. If there's someone doing really well on the chase card, we'll split it up to 2 and 2 to get more coverage of them. But you're right, and I think next year there has already been talks about expanding the camera coverage and things like that, and getting. Obviously, I could sit and talk tech and bore everybody for a long.
You already are.
But we are, But you're right. Okay. It would be nice to have another camera, whether it's stationary. We did that at GBO one year during in between rounds. We put it on hole 16, the island hole, and we just let people watch. It was streamed. Yeah. We just let it stream. We didn't even record it, and just watched people and sit in the numbers racked up and watch people throw in the water. I mean,
people love that stuff. I thought. Yeah, people love watching those kind of holes. So I would say a chunk of it goes to that, because I think that's going to increase the live. And then I would say you would percentage out the whatever that comes to with the FPO and the MPO. And I would say I'm going to add something I'm actually going to take money away from
more
people.
Cameras. He's going to give them more cameras.
No, I'm going to take money away from people, actually, and pay less people out.
Okay.
Don't go as deep.
Okay.
And basically, the money that you take away, you can kind of trickle that money up, and then the extra money from the 100,000 is going to like the top 10. So first place is getting a significantly more money than second, and. Because what is second place? Ricky got 6. What does second get?
Probably
like
35.
Yeah, 35, 45 if we had to guess.
Like that, yeah.
I guess we can pull it up, but yeah.
Don't do research.
Again, like when the money's lower, if it's like the different, even when it's like twice as much, right? $2 versus $1, that doesn't really mean that much. But when it's 2 million versus 1 million, now that means a lot more. So I think when the numbers are smaller, you almost kind of have to inflate the difference between those numbers more than you would when the pot starts getting bigger. So I would love to just see, because I think that's easily the way to make headlines and get people talking about it and get people more serious about disc golf, is if the winner is winning $17,000.
Does that, and I follow your logic, does that chase away your aspiring
touring players,
your guys that win the
they win people that don't make money. You're only taking money away from like 10, 15 people, and that money is like what? I mean, do you guys have the
rough last payout was roughly we'll call it about 200. If you would have made last payout by yourself, you would have probably won about 200, maybe 225.
Is that a life changer if that person doesn't make that money?
Depends on their status of their touring year. If they're in their freshman or sophomore touring year, that 225 might get them to the next event or two. You know, like that. I think that's the big question.
I see what you're saying. If I'm that person, let's say I'm living, paycheck to paycheck, or
ramen to ramen, literally.
Yeah, ramen to ramen, and I'm trying to cash because I need to cash to be able to get to the next event. I would rather, and this would be interesting to kind of put a poll out to those pros, I would rather roll the dice on myself and say, take away that 220 and make the last cash $1,000 or $900.
Sure.
And now I'm going to beat out these 8 or 9 people that I need to beat out to last cash. And now I get a significant amount of money, because right now we're playing poker. Everyone's showing up. Everyone's showing up. There's 8 of us. We're all putting $50 in the pot, and we're saying, all right, 5th place, you take home even money. 4th place, you get a little bit. 3rd place, you get a little bit more. 2nd place, you get a little bit more. And 1st place, you get a little bit more. Where if I'm a really good poker player, I'm thinking, no, winner takes all. There's only 8 of us.
Yeah.
There's only 8 of us. Let's not divvy up like that, or at least like 1st and 2nd. So it would be interesting to hear those kind of mid-tier players of, do they want to battle for $200, or do they want to maybe jump a couple more spots and make $600, $700, $800? I don't know.
Okay. So
I was going to say, there's a few people that put out polls every year. I think Ultra World maybe is one of them. PDGA does things like this. Usually do like an annual summary or a blind test, so to speak, and ask these questions. And I would love to know what the answers are. Like to literally put it out to the pros and say, and have it be anonymous, and say, what would you rather have? If let's just say, and I'm going to throw him under the bus here because I know he can take it. If you're Eric Oakley, sometimes you're taking 8th place, 7th place, but sometimes you're taking 20th place or 23rd, depending on the weekend you're having. What would he rather have? Would he rather be like, I'll take the guaranteed money and move on? Or would he rather be like, no, I want to get paid a lot more when I get to that 8th place? I don't know, because
I think
AJ
Colton's
Rizzi
actually,
or Colton.
Colton's a really good one because he won.
Yep.
He won an event. So like asking him, hey, would you have rather win $15,000 and not cash at a couple events?
Which he did the next week or something. He went from winning to not cashing, I think.
Yeah. But now, again, even there, Paul Macbeth and Ricky Wysocki are all in, put all the chips in, let's have $10,000 entry fees for all we care. Of course they're going to say that. And then the 990, I'll go much lower than an Eric, for instance. I say your 990s, your 1,000-rated players, they're the ones that are gambling even harder at that point, and they're going to have a very different answer. Well, then that's a whole nother question, and I know the chat board saying very similar. But there's those perspectives. Of course, Paul is going to want to play for the biggest stakes and put in any amount of money because he's got those skills. You're rated 1,000 and your freshman year on the tour. Yeah, that 187 that you won for tying for last cash is going to go a lot farther than an extra $180. Yeah, than an extra $187 in Paul's pocket. So, somewhere there's some socialism here we should talk about. I don't know, but again,
let's get Bernie in here.
Yeah, your conversation is not new, so to speak, but it's a good one to have.
So, here's my rebuttal to that: is I just won $500 and I suck.
I wouldn't say you suck, but
you have.
To a lot of people, I suck, and I just won $500, which is more than all these people making last cash at these. I mean, they're still probably beating out a lot of good players, right? Last cash, you're still beating out a lot of people. So, in my mind, it almost makes more sense to, if you are living paycheck to paycheck, like we're saying, of where you're just trying, like, go live at home, and there's enough tournaments that you can drive around to, and you're not spending as much money. Rent's cheaper, or gas is going to be cheaper, and just rack up all these little tournaments while you're getting better.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't really my plan. I didn't really expect to come home and start winning tournaments. But,
look at this guy. I just came up with a brand new plan. Look at what I'm
just saying. I like we talked about, I played 8 events before this one, and I made double in one event. So you look again. I love comparing to the PGA Tour, because as much as people want to say we're not like them, we're very similar. they have a lot of other tours in the PGA Tour. Everyone on the PGA Tour is not paycheck to paycheck.
No.
Everyone on the PGA Tour is fine. But the Canadian Tour, some people are. The Asian Tour, some people are. Latin America Tour, some people are. And then they even have smaller tours, like the mini tours, the Sunshine Tour. There's a little mini tour in Texas. Those people are even more worse off of where they're living out of their cars and, they've got a wife and a kid coming to where they're like, I have to make something happen this year or my dream of golfing is over. And so I think there's different levels. And right now the problem is there's only one level in disc golf. Everyone is kind of all in that same spot.
So let me ask that, because it's totally in line with this whole conversation, is should our entry fees be higher? An average Pro Tour entry fee, $225, $250, $275, somewhere in that neighborhood. I haven't signed up for one lately, but somewhere in that neighborhood.
What is the reason?
Just wondering, putting more, quote unquote, gambling more money, having more money in the pot, having the numbers look bigger, even if they are coming from within. What if entry fees were $500 or $750 or $1,000 on any given weekend? And clearly hypothetical, but
I'm actually, I tried to look this up at one day and I kind of blanked out. I don't think I did my research. Does anyone know that's watching right now? Does anyone know it? And you guys let me know if they answer it. Does PGA Tour players have to pay entry fees?
I was always under the impression that their sponsors paid that, but I don't know where I saw or read that once.
I don't even know. That was what I was trying to figure out is there even an entry fee that sponsors have to pay for PGA Tour? Or once you have a card and you get in a tournament, you're in. There's no tournament fees for players.
Johnny's got something here.
I'm trying to...
as he reads through that.
But to answer your question, I would actually say I don't mind. I mean, and this is where I would like to kind of know what the PGA Tour does. But to me, it kind of does seem silly to force players to pay money because in my mind, like the people that like the disc golf, they don't, right?
It says here a PGA Tour player who's exempt from qualifying does not have to pay entry fees for tour events. He does pay $100 initiation fee and then $100 in annual dues. The only expense he must pay to play in a tournament is a mandatory $50 locker fee. Yeah. Most professionals competing in pre-tournament qualifying events will pay $400 a piece, except for champions and nationwide tour players. They pay $100 each, and non-exempt PGA Tour members for no entry fees.
Dirty.
So
that's dirty. So let's imagine that right now. So Ledgestone, every player under 1,000 rated. Okay, so because this is what I would say to you, Terry. I would say the Disc Golf Pro Tour doesn't charge anyone that qualifies. So let's just say if you're over 1,000 rated, you qualify. And obviously there's going to be some tournaments. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think there's a decent amount of 1,000 rated players. So if every 1,000 rated player wanted to get into a tournament, some might be left out based off of when they signed up or just whatever. But let's just say theoretically, Ledgestone, there was 100 spots for 1,000 rated players. They didn't charge the 70,000 rated players that wanted to get in. There's only 70 guys that are 1,000 rated that wanted to play. So now there's 30 spots. Those 30 spots now are available for anyone 900 and above. And those 900 and above people have to pay the money to qualify the Monday before the event. So all those people are paying, and those people are rolling the dice and betting on themselves, because if they get in, now they can make some real money. Because to me, the Disc Golf Pro Tour is making money off the players, the production and all that. They're making money. Like if they don't have players to show, they don't have a product. So I don't think the players should actually have to pay to play in tournaments. Ideally, where I don't think we're there yet. But NBA basketball players don't pay to play in a game. Football players don't pay to play. We're not there yet, and I get that. But I think that's where disc golf wants to get to, is where they're getting enough sponsorship money that they don't need the money from the players to actually make the purse. And so that would be a sick way of doing it, is increase the rating for me personally, I love the idea of actually having some sort of qualification to get your tour card, and then you have it versus the rating system, because especially after playing at this Magnolia Open, the ratings, I don't care what you want to say, the rating system is 100% broken. Because explain to me how you can have an event that has 6 people in it and 5 people all play terrible and you play good, and so it looks like you shot a 1060.
There are definitely strange quirks with it based on the number of people. You're right. Based on the number of people.
I just played with Coda. He's 1,004 rated. I've played with people that are 1020, 1030 that are worse than him, way worse.
Yeah.
And it's because Coda doesn't care about his rating. He just plays in tournaments that he knows ratings are terrible.
And I know this is a big Macbeth and Yuli kind of push that they hate player ratings, and I can understand that. I think I don't really see a purpose for them when you become pro. Like, what?
Okay, Paul.
No. Once we establish like a touring card or something like that, which we could be years away from, that they truly don't really serve a purpose other than registration. Now, it is really good for everybody under that, because you do have a way of saying, hey, I'm a 970 rated player, I'm a 938 rated player, I can't play in a 935 rated division. I understand that concept. Does it really matter if someone's 1020 versus 1030? Does it change a single thing? 1010 versus 1040? It's just a number. If you're always playing for money, it's literally just a number, and it doesn't.
It's still a snapshot.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it doesn't matter. That snapshot doesn't matter, and
but
I'm not.
You can definitely tweak the system to be in your favor, and you can do it to where it's not in your favor. And so now it's like you have 1,000 rated player and a 1020 rated player, and the 1,000 rated player is way better than the 1020.
Well, you can also be a right-handed power hitter and love to play at Fenway. Like, of course, there are ways I think you can tweak things to your advantage that may either set up for a course or a style of course or a part of the country. There's a lot of different things. I will absolutely agree with that.
We have seen and heard of pros not playing specific events because the SSA of the course was too low.
I literally was just going to ask that question is, do you think people are refusing to play? Do you
Absolutely.
Think,
there are some, yeah.
And so the question is, if you did away with ratings, right, would more people play in tournaments? Would there be more people actually competing? Because now they're not worried that, hey, my sponsor said that if I'm above 1,000 rated, I get all these perks, and I'm 1,002. And this tournament doesn't really suit my game, so I don't want to go and play it because it could lower my rating under 1,000, and then I'd miss out on all these perks.
Maybe, but that's still no different than, because she's open about it. Holly Finley doesn't like playing open courses. Now, it has nothing to do with the SSA or the ratings of the course or the competitions that's there. She just specifically has been very vocal for many years that she doesn't like playing open courses. So you see her skipping entire sections of the country where it's open and not fun for her to go play. And that's not ratings based. That's just a true personality base. And I'm okay with that too. To the point though, is that any different?
People look at courses, but also people look at the field too. The people look and say, wait, like because let's just say Paul Macbeth jumped into the tournament that I was just in. He would have to have played lights out to shoot his rating. Like literally he would have to where if he played decent on the Pro Tour, he's probably going to still shoot over his rating just based off of the field. Because again, like, especially when you have a small field like that, having one guy that is just brand new, and especially, I mean, look at myself. Like, I'm probably a terrible person to play with at a small field, because if I play well, like I did this past tournament, I'm shooting 50 points higher than my rating. That can't help you.
No, but that's going to level out. You're not going to do that every weekend, because your rating is going to adjust relatively quickly.
One time, someone only plays 4 tournaments a year, and one of the tournaments, like
we've seen that
gets screwed.
Look at Mr. Chan.
I think there's a
Jackie Chen.
Jackie Chen from Japan, who played one event and he's rated like 10:30 or something now. And is he going to stay there?
Do you want to play another event?
Is he going to stay there? Probably not.
Yeah, he is. He played better than all of the people anywhere near his skill level.
I don't disagree. He may, but if he comes to the States, there's a good chance he drops down to 10:20.
That's totally made up.
You're right.
I just saw it though on the
100%.
Local
right.
What I just don't get is on the local level, and I just give this scenario: if you play in an event that has 5 people, you're going to get a rating, right? There's no there's only 5 people, you can't. Get a rating.
They have to be. There has to be rating propagators, which means you're rated. I don't know if it's
5. I'm saying all 5 people are rating propagators.
Yep.
You're going to get a rating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Day 1, everyone plays bad. Everyone plays terrible. The ratings will not show that. If everyone played equally terrible based off their rating, the ratings will show that everyone shot their rating. And to me, right there, that's all I need to know, that the system does not work. Because if I only play tournaments where there's 5 people, and I could do that, I could just go around and pick tournaments where there's only 5 people. There's going to be days where all 5 people play amazing. Like I shot the best round of my life. Well, guess what? The other 4 people also shot the best round of their life. And to say that that's not going to happen, or to say it's going to level out, I've seen it firsthand. It's just not going to. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work unless you play every event on the Pro Tour. You play every event on the Pro Tour. There's so many different people that I think it's hard to fluctuate and really sneak away with a really high rating that's not deserved. But at these small events, which I would say most players play, most players play a bunch of small events, your rating is going to get jacked up. And there's a reason why I've talked to everyone, and they all say, I look at the field, the people that care about the ratings, they look at the field, they see who's playing, and they're like, oh, no high level rated players are in this. I'm going to be the highest level. I mean, look at Emerson Keith. Didn't he have the low, such a low rating? I think I'm pretty sure he had a pretty low rating.
I don't recall
because he was playing all these local events around Texas. Mm-hmm. And then he popped on the Pro Tour and just started. I mean, he's one of the best players in the world as far as I'm concerned.
And that's what I said. There are definitely quirks with the system. You can massage the system. You can play with the system. You can make it. You can bend the system based on a lot of factors. As Terry says, it's a snapshot. It's a snap, and we've talked about this before. It's a snapshot of right now versus the competition right now. Because you and I both know, if we go back 10 years and look at someone who's a 1040 rated player, it's different than a 1040 rated player now. It's very hard to compare based on the number of, all the number of players as their ratings get bigger. I know there's always talk of ratings inflation. We joke about it. I don't know how true it is. Mr. Kennedy could probably answer that for us if we truly wanted to ask him, and he'd give us some long standard deviation thing about it. But it is not necessarily great for historical purposes, but it does show where you are compared to your competition right now.
Batting averages weren't great for historical purposes then. Because they played with different bats in different fields and different gloves and different pitchers. That's all part of the evolution.
Yes.
People say that in basketball too, because there wasn't a 3-point line. So it was really hard to score a lot of points because you couldn't score 3 points in one shot. Mm-hmm. Those are all things that people talk about and understand. And
it's sports talk.
People debate about Jordan all the time not being that great because he was playing against a bunch of plumbers, and people talk about that stuff all the time. But the other side of the coin is, Paul's tweet talking about how ratings were never brought up in the broadcast. I think too often people look at a rating and, let's just look at a random tournament where a high rated player and a low rated player, and the low rated player is just playing out of their mind, and ends up beating the high rated player. People are going to look and say, the first thing they always look at is the ratings and be like, oh, well, that person played below the rating. If you take away that whole ratings, the whole talk isn't so much that person blew it, he should have won the tournament. You go into any tennis match or tennis tournament, you go into any any sort of like singles stuff, golf tournament, anything like that, you never hear a winner winning because other people played bad. But you hear that in disc golf a lot. You do, of where it's like,
sure,
if Paul shoots below his rating and someone wins, oh, it's because Paul didn't play well. But if you take away ratings, you don't know that Paul didn't play well. Other than if you like literally saw all his shots and he was missing putts and whatnot. But I just think that's the game, man. Sometimes you're going to play great and sometimes you're not going to play good. And I hate people getting less appreciation for their work because of a number next to their name, unless it's like the number of where they were in the tournament.
Yeah,
that's the only number that should count.
I'm
number
not,
one.
Yeah, I'm not anti-rating by any point, but I understand the concept. I understand that it's a snapshot, as Terry says, of right now, right here, your competition in this exact moment. Like, and that's fine.
What would the talk be if Calvin wins GMC averaging 1030? What would the talk be?
That the rest of the field played poorly.
No, I would say that Calvin. I mean, to me, it'd be that Calvin won. I mean,
if Calvin won with a 930, it would be all over. Like there would be articles written about why were the ratings so low? How did Calvin win with a 1030?
It would be questioned why everyone else's ratings are so low. That I agree with, because that would be a valid question: is why did they come out that way? But
I don't think there's I don't think there's a flaw in the rating system.
There also has to be
for those players because they play a large amount. Like as we know, they're not like picking and choosing.
Correct.
But I mean, as you can attest, Brody, and I would hope to think anyone that has a brain in our sport would say, I would take a win averaging 1,000 golf all weekend versus taking second averaging 1080 golf all weekend. I mean, everybody's playing for the W. So I don't know if that further backs my point, which is, if people don't like ratings, then ignore them. Who cares?
It's a media thing, though. It's more of a when players get into the sport, that is the thing that people will tell them the most about. To where, if I would have won this tournament shooting 1,000 rated, it would not be as talked about as me shooting 10 whatever I ended up shooting, 29 or whatever. If I would have won this tournament shooting 1,000 rated with the same field, people would look and be like, "Oh, he played a bunch of crappy people. What the heck? I could have won that tournament." Where all because I shot a 1029, some number that somehow was created from the 26 people that were in the field. Now some people look at that as a legitimate. I mean, I've seen it all over social media. Mm-hmm. People are tweeting me all the time, dude, averaging 1029, that's insane. And it's like, I would love it to just where people were looking more at what place they got versus their ratings. Because people also play tour ratings. Like people will play safer in tournaments down the stretch, especially if they know they don't have a chance of winning. They'll play safer to not botch up their rating. Like if they have a par 5, for example, and they can either go for it and get an eagle, or if they go for it and mess up, they get a double. They might just play safe and get the birdie.
I'll counter
jump up the placements.
I get that, and I'll counter that slightly in two examples, albeit minor. I think back to a few months ago, I played a tiny little tournament in the Masters division. All I needed to do was par the last hole because the guy I was tied with, whatever. I laid up from 33 feet because it was right on the edge of a slope. I laid up. I didn't even think about my rating. Not that my rating matters much anyway, but I played for the win because it could have rolled away. So I think about that example where the rating meant nothing to me because all I cared about was the W. And then I turn around and I think back 10 or 15 years ago, probably now 15, Chris Herron, who was a local legend in Wisconsin, now is in the Masters division. He was playing in Minnesota against a great field. He got to the last hole, and he was thinking about his rating. It was something he was very concerned about. And instead of laying up for the win, he hits the basket, rolls away, and ends up not winning the tournament outright. I think it went into a playoff. All he had to do was lay up, but he was going for that extra rating point because he is having a great round going. So I feel like it can go both ways, that some people,
sure,
how they want to worry about it. But if you're putting that much of a concern on your rating over your actual placing, I also think, but I think you're in the...
have to, because the manufacturers put so much pressure on these players.
Do they? Do they? I mean, is it more of a fan putting pressure on it, or do manufacturers truly care about it?
There's definitely perk levels of where your rating are. Like, you have to have a certain rating to get a Tour Series disc.
Sure.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's with any manufacturer. So if you're right on that line, I mean, that could be $10,000. You know, if you're only a couple points away, and then again, like, I don't know what people are saying in the chat, but just on my level of just being in the sport quickly, talking to amateurs or anything, like, it's very much like golf where people talk about their handicap. And that's fine if you're an amateur. No one talks about the professional handicaps. They don't have them. And that's my whole point is I would love if you're on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, no one talks about your rating. Like, I'm not talking about, two guys in the local scene being like, dude, I'm 915, you're 900, I'm better than you, trash talking. That's fine. That's going to happen. I'm talking about people in every tournament. You look at ratings, right? When Paige Pierce wins a tournament, we're all looking at her rating. Whenever Paige Pierce gets a rating boost and gets higher, everyone is talking about it.
I think
big deal in the sport.
I agree. I think it is one element. It is one component, and if she wins by 12, I think that's equally as important. As opposed to if she shot, 10-10 rated golf all weekend, her winning by 12 is also important to me. The caliber of the rest of her field is also important to me. I mean, I think everybody puts a different emphasis. I agree with you. There is a lot of emphasis on rating when I think things really stand out. But otherwise, I don't know. I guess my question would be, should the pros just ignore it then?
I think a lot of them do. And
they get on social media and say, I don't like it, let's get rid of these. I don't like these. Well, so they're not really ignoring it at that point.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I was talking more like ignore it in the sense of, like, if they had a bad round, they're not looking at their rating after the round and being like, oh man, I'm on the cusp. But like I said, like, I know that disc manufacturers have certain levels. And if you're right on that level, I mean, it's the same thing as, like, if you're right on the level of cashing or not in a tournament, you should be at least looking to see. I mean, the whole idea that is another topic, but the whole idea of, like,
I love this.
The whole idea of coming down a tournament and not knowing where you are.
Oh,
yeah. You take that up with Eagle. You take that up with Eagle, bro.
No, to certain people, I get it. To certain people, if you're like, hey, if I look and see that my score, whatever that affects me, Eagle knows himself better than I know him, and so he clearly does not play better by knowing the situation. He plays better by just being free. But that being said, you look at a J.R. Smith situation of not being aware of how much time was left on the clock and losing the game. And point to the tournament this past weekend. I told myself I wasn't going to look at the scores until the 14th hole. The 14th hole was a par 5, and that was the only time at that point moving forward that the next couple holes I could play differently. The first 13 holes, literally, I couldn't play any differently. There was either some holes that I literally would never be able to birdie or some holes that I had to birdie. But the 14th hole was when I was like, I'm going to look at the scores. And that's when I looked and saw that I was tied with Coda and I was one shot behind Bo. And so if I was a couple shots back, I was going to go for the green on 14 to try and make an eagle. But because I was one shot behind Bo, I played for birdie, made birdie, and the rest obviously played out the way it did. But I think there's definitely certain situations where, if you're on the 18th hole and, like you said, you knew that you needed par to win. So why in the world would you run a risky putt when you could lay up and win? And I think, all it's going to take is one person to do something like that where we're all watching and being like, wait, Nico's going to lay up, right? He's going to lay up.
We've seen it. We have, though. Yeah, it's happened. Sarah Holcomb, not to pick on her, but a few years ago,
GMC, right?
At GMC, I think it was just last year. She wasn't sure, and she didn't give it quite the full run. Or I think of a number of years ago, Holly Finley at a local event. She had the scores wrong in her head, and she thought she was up by more than what she was. She laid up a putt, so that ended up biting her. But we've seen that from Val Jenkins at the Memorial a few years ago. She was right there in the thick of things. She needed to make the putt, and she didn't give it the effort in terms of running at it, and she needed to make it at that time. So there's been times that has happened.
Yep. And if
you know the score, it's a huge advantage. And if the score is going to affect your play, then you're playing with a disadvantage.
Yeah, and we've talked about that. That's a mental deficiency that people can work on. Like you have to put yourself in those positions, and unfortunately, that position doesn't necessarily come very often. So it makes it very difficult to practice that. Mm-hmm. But we always talk about Paul, and Paul knows what's going on at all times. For the most part, he knows his score. He knows where everybody else is. That's something that doesn't really affect him. If it affects you, that is a problem in your game that you can work on and improve. It's a mental issue.
And like I said, people don't look at the scores constantly. They're not like after hole 2 looking to see where they are. I don't think that's a good idea. And, on the PGA Tour, they've got leaderboards all over the place. And there's times when players will just walk by and not look at the leaderboard because it's day 2 and they don't want to know what's going on because that could have an effect on, there's plenty of time to make up shots. But yeah, coming down to the wire, I'd be hard pressed for anyone to tell me that not knowing the score was an advantage.
Yeah, no, we've all been in a position where knowing the score was an advantage.
I don't even know how we got to that topic, but
I don't know.
That was my fault. That was my fault.
Totally.
That's okay. If it's one thing we're known for at Smashbox, it's staying on point.
Yeah,
so,
always. Yeah. That's why we're so concise here on the show. All right. So if we're going to talk about things about ratings and other things media consumes and talk about, you're friends with Paul off the course. And, you guys aren't just teammates. You guys are friends.
Surprisingly, Discraft did not force us to be friends.
Yep.
We actually enjoy each other's company off the course.
Absolutely. So, but how do you consume disc golf media, and how are you engaged in it versus, say, you feel like some of your other professional counterparts? Because I know there's plenty of pros that outside of playing golf on the weekends, they could care less about disc golf media in any form. And I feel like you're different.
Tournament coverage, or are you talking about just people tweeting and Instagram?
Yeah, tweeting and Instagramming and all of that stuff. Where it's like, yeah, they're not. You're more plugged in. I don't know if the kids still say that since everything's wireless, but you're more plugged in than most. Yeah. And is that just part of your nature and where you've been in social media all these years?
Well, so. I have 2 videos right now queued up because they are playing courses that my next tournament's going to be at. So I'm going to be, when I get off of here, I'm going to be watching those tournaments to kind of basically watch film, and I'll do that occasionally too. Like I watched the Lost Valley one. I'll occasionally watch tournaments like that because those could be potential tournaments that I might want to go play. But then also you're watching some of the best players in the world, so you actually can kind of, get better by watching as well. Other than that, as long as I'm able to, and maybe it's just on my mobile phone during a practice round or while I'm on the field or putting, I try to tune into all the Disc Golf Pro Tour events. So I'll be watching on Thursday and Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and doing that. Now, I'm not sitting down on my couch glued to it. I'm probably practicing. I'm probably practicing and doing other things, disc golf related while it's going on. But I am watching. And Sunday, normally I'll the last hour or so, I'll sit down and really consume it. Other than that, social media, if I see stuff from other people, I'll engage with it if I want to, but I'm not really going out and searching stuff. I do on Facebook. I didn't know that you could do this for the longest time, but you can mute people. So you can still be friends, but you can just never see them. Yep. So my Facebook pretty much is just Discraft all day. Chain Bombers, which is the local group here in the Dallas area, so I can kind of see all the events and all that stuff that's going on here. And then there's a couple other groups that I'm on too, so I can kind of just see what's going on as well that way. And other than that, that's pretty much, we have our own Discord server that is awesome to connect to all the fans and stuff of Foundation Disc Golf. So I'll go on there quite a bit. But other than that, I would say the most consumption is like tournament coverage.
And every Tuesday you're here.
Every Tuesday, yeah. Well, I tend to watch you guys on the podcast. I'm not gonna lie.
That's fine.
It's easier to do that on these. Well, I'm having to drive a lot more because there's not really any hard courses near my house, so I'm having to drive 45 an hour to some of these courses. So like today, I listened to the Ricky and Cat one. On the drive there and the drive back. So.
We have been told that we are great for long drives.
Yes. Yeah. If you ever switch over to like semi-truck driving, you can stick with us.
We've got a huge fan base for semi-truck drivers.
So when you're looking at, you're one of the few people, that's where I was going to go. You're one of the few people that Twitter's your jam. Like there's only a few hardcore disc golf Twitter people. Hannah's has really cemented herself as one of those. Andrew Fish is another very active one. Those are probably the two most active Twitter people, and then you in disc golf. Where's my list? Is that list about right?
Yeah. Steve Hill. Steve Hill's pretty active on there as well.
Okay. So what's with
there's someone that I'm blanking on who it is, but I do feel like someone does engage with a lot of my tweets, and someone that I'm friends with.
Sure,
Twitter. But yeah.
Zach Melton is probably another. He's a relatively regular
guy on there.
He is, of course. So what is it? Why Twitter? That's my question. Like, why Twitter as opposed?
I hate Facebook.
Okay.
I don't really do much on my actual Facebook page. I feel like Facebook, it got really confusing to me. Like now when I go on my Facebook page, there's like 18 different modules and all this other stuff. I don't even know what's going on. Twitter's really easy to just kind of connect with people quickly. And for me, it's just an easy way of, if I think of something or something's on my mind, I just blast it out real quick in a tweet. And, sometimes I'll go on Instagram stories and I'll say stuff on there too, but Twitter for me is just it's just easy to text something real quick, Okay. That's kind of the thing, is like if you have like a thought, you're going to probably text it to someone versus calling someone to tell them.
All right. No, I remember when you first kind of got involved with disc golf, one of your first disc golf related tweets was like, "Hey, who's out here on Twitter?" And that started out. And there's still
there was like four of us. It was like a Hannah, myself, and Mo, I think.
Yeah, it's not as consumed media, I think, within the disc golf atmosphere.
I love it, honestly. I will take disc golf Twitter over any other medium, over Reddit, over Discord's a little different because it's more of a community. It's more of like your fans usually, or it's not so. But if you're talking public consumption, Twitter is the way to go.
Okay, so since we claimed that not only would this be a chat with you today, but also a Green Mountain Championships preview, any bold predictions, hot takes, any thoughts about Green Mountain coming up in a couple days?
I feel like that's one of the courses I actually haven't seen any coverage from. I don't know if I've actually watched any previous tournaments. So I do know it's two courses, I believe. One is wooded and one is kind of open. Fox Run Meadows versus the Brewster Ridge course. Two very yin-yang, two very opposite courses, tight, wooded, accurate versus more wide open with ropes. So like a ledgestone kind of feel.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to use two very drastic comparisons. Between the two courses, all on one property. It's amazing. You pull into, you get dropped off from the hotel shuttle usually, and you're in the parking lot, and it's literally like, oh, we're going to go left to this course or right to that course. They both start right there. They hosted the World Championships.
It's a pretty touristy disc golf spot for people.
The number one family resort in the country for ski resort in the country. over at Green Mountain. Yes. Yeah, it's a Wyndham Zone property. Jeff Spring and the rest of the crew there have obviously, developed the courses and the atmosphere to make it, this destination that you have to get to. And then I think, the 2018 Worlds being hosted there also speaks volumes of what they've accomplished and what they provide. So yeah, there's some previous years coverage out there. Ricky really dominated this event for the first couple of years. Kat's done very well out there, probably no surprise. And then
I was gonna say, like, the people at the top of Ledgestone, those guys that were all finishing at the top are probably going to do the same. I think if Kevin is playing well, because I know he kind of struggled a little bit later in the tournament, but I think going off what Ricky said when he was talking with you is he really likes the 2-course kind of tournaments because it gives you both elements of what it takes to be like an overall good disc golfer.
Yep.
You can't just throw far and putt well. You have to be able to hit lines for certain, the first couple days, or I don't know what courses they play first. But I personally don't like playing 2 courses because that's 36 holes I have to try to figure out how to play in a short time. But I definitely see the appeal of I think you get a true winner as far as like that person played the best disc golf versus having it at a course that, the bombers are just going to dominate. So I think it levels the playing field of where you have to be able to do both. So yeah, I mean, I think Paul, Ricky, it'll be Eagles going too, right? So it'll be interesting to see how he does because he did really, really well at Idlewild. And that was a tournament too that I think he didn't really have confidence going into, thinking it wasn't a course for it, because I think he didn't play it in previous years, if I remember correctly. I don't think.
Well, he didn't finish in the top in the previous years because it seemed to be at like a Kevin, Paul, Kevin, James Conrad kind of battle.
I thought he kind of shied away from Idlewild previously because he didn't think it suited his game. But I think he's starting to get a lot of confidence, and you're seeing that in his play. So I think he's going to be up there as well. And then it'd be interesting to see kind of Calvin make kind of a reappearance because he was on fire at the beginning of the year, and I feel like people have kind of stopped talking about him. And then obviously people like Chris Dickerson as well. His game is really great for both open courses and wooded. So and then on the female side of things, I think this is going to be a good tester for Paige because she did talk a lot about how people were saying how she can't win wooded courses. And then, she didn't win Ledgestone. So I think this is going to be a great tournament for her because some of these tournaments I don't feel like she's really pushed, and that's not to downplay the skill level of the other women, but it's just to more talk about how good she is. And I think now she's starting to see some other ladies starting to kind of close that skill gap. And so I would love to see another kind of tournament of where, it comes down to the wire, because I know that was getting kind of exciting at Ledgestone for them because Kat wasn't making as many birdies as she was previously, and Paige was just going beast mode. So it'll be interesting to see if she can kind of keep that going into this tournament.
Yeah, and thanks to Mo, who is still maybe behind our curtain, our live audience.
I'm pretty sure he left.
Oh, I'm going to miss him. Okay, never mind.
He left right after we started the show.
Oh, okay. Well, see you, Mo. He had done some research and also posted a few hours ago to the Disc Golf Pro Tour social accounts that Paul Ulibarri, on averages, plays 20 points above his rating at this particular event. So maybe that's a little bump. Maybe that's a little comfortability, or whatever it might be. But we'll see how that factors in. And we all know Yuli would love a big breakout victory.
Yeah, and I like how he talked about the rating versus the finishing place. But
yeah, exactly.
That's a different, different topic. But Yuli's I've been talking. He's one of my closer friends on tour, and he really feels like he is right. Like he's right there. Like he's on the tipping point of breaking through, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously he's kind of been battling, coming back from knee surgery and all that stuff. But his game, man, he's very good at disc golf, very good. And so, I would love to see him at the top of the leaderboard as well.
Yeah, well, we'll see if some of those feels come about. That's an interesting statistic, and again, whether it's average or places or whatever, but it's an interesting statistic nonetheless. And I wonder if, how that feeds into the previous conversation. But anyway, all right, Brody, is there anything else that we need to hear from you? Any shout outs or mentions? You got any more
Get Freakies coming out?
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't get any of them.
Yeah. How do we got to plug your stuff here? Is there anything else you got to share with us?
I don't literally have anything for sale. Nothing's for sale.
I know. I was gonna say, what's the table in the background? That was all merch at one point, right? Now it's just an empty table.
Everything Foundation does everything now. But we have. I would say the biggest thing coming up is these stickers, and I know some people have already kind of talked about them, but these were not made for the masses. These were made for the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, you probably have no idea what's going on, but during all the live streams of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, I mean, we have hundreds of people that are live chatting in the Discord, and they've got all these different emojis that they end up creating. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them just happen on the spot. We have a couple graphic designers, Keto Jake's one of them, and he'll just something will happen and people will be like, we need an emoji for that. And he'll just literally within 2 minutes make it. And so now people are just posting it whenever happens. So we have all these different kind of emojis, and people love them. So we were like, hey, let's make these into stickers. And a lot of people are really, really excited about it. And those kind of come out on Friday. So if you're not in the Discord, you probably have no idea and you probably don't care, and that's fine. But all of us over here at Foundation are very excited about it. But other than that, things are just kind of going on, and I'm spending a lot more time focusing on practice and getting better, and I'm trying to post YouTube videos again, but it's hard, man.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of irons in the fire.
I'd rather practice than film a YouTube video. So I'm trying to work everything out and still be able to do some of the social media stuff. But it's one of those things where I think a lot of pros would love to get to that level too, of where they can really be spending most of their time and focus on their craft and not so much on the social media side of things. Mm-hmm. And I think, we're slowly getting there. A lot of good things with disc golf right now. A lot of good things. And a lot of the conversations we had are conversations that probably wouldn't exist a couple years ago because they didn't matter. There wasn't a point to have them. But the fact that now they're coming up, that's a good thing.
For sure. We got to keep challenging, keep pushing, and all growing and developing and talking things out. I'm all good with that. And if there's any place to talk,
what's it called when you get a group of people and they all just think the same?
Group think.
Yeah. See, I don't think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Not according to the Challenger.
I like debating, man.
Well, you've come to the right place.
I don't want everyone to say everyone on the disc golf. I don't want people to all be like, oh, I don't care who wins. I like everyone. Everyone's really nice. That's not exciting. You want to root for people and you want to hope people do bad. I mean, that's just sports, right? And then you talk trash to your buddy that's a huge Paul fan and be like, ha ha, Paul got 5th. You suck.
Yeah, did you see what his round was rated? He sucked. All right, never mind.
Exactly. But that's sports. We all love doing that. So,
absolutely.
I don't think that's something that we should shy away from and try to have everyone be on the same mindset and be like, everything, this is how you have to do it. Okay. Keep calling me out. That's fine.
All right.
Fuels me.
I'll come after you. All right, Brody, we're going to let you go. Give us at least your sponsor shout outs here before we let you go.
Yeah, there's only one, Discraft. This could be talked. I can go long-winded on this, but there was a lot of discussion about, why did I get sponsored and people being upset, and it should go to people that have been grinding for years and years, which I would love to see what these people grinding is, because it'd be interesting, because I think their definition of grinding and my definition of grinding are very different. But, I think they saw in my first couple conversations with Bob, I think they saw that this wasn't me just coming in and wanting to be a celebrity sponsored player like that chef that Innova has or whoever that person is. They saw that I was taking this seriously, and I take this sport very seriously, and I'm trying to do everything as professional as I possibly can. And I have a passion for this sport. You have to. You can't wake up every day and play for $500 if you don't have a passion for the sport. So I think they saw that and took a chance on me. It's paid out pretty good for them so far.
How much? How much has it paid out for them? If you had to take a guess.
I don't know. It's been good. I don't think they're complaining. But this is just the beginning. This is people thought I was going to be in here for a year and bounce. People thought me leaving the pro tour was the end of my disc golf career, and I'm going to be playing the sport until I can't anymore. And when I can't play it, I'm going to be doing everything I can to help it grow and help the people that are coming out of high school or college and want to be pros. I'm hoping that those people are playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars 10, 15, 20 years from now. Because I think people that really love this sport, there would be nothing cooler than sitting back on your couch and watching it on TV. Because, when we all watched that coverage, we were like, wow, this is incredible. Now imagine if that was every week and people are making a living and just tons of people being able to do disc golf for a living. That just sounds awesome. And I think that's what we all want. I think that's what most of us want, hopefully, 20 years from now. So I'll keep grinding over here. And if you're ever curious what grinding means, you can hit me up on Twitter and I'll let you know what grinding means.
And if you'd like to know what grinding means, ask Terry and I in a private chat room and we can tell you about some stories.
No.
Right. I won't come back on here until I win an A tier, because I know when my first time we came on here, I said, I'll see you guys when I win a tournament. And a lot of people were talking and laughing about that, but it was a B tier. So the next one has to be an A tier.
Have you rubbed it into Askren yet? Have you talked to him? Have you?
Ben?
Yeah.
No, he just got done with hip surgery. He's got the Wolverine inside of him now.
Nice.
So I'm giving him a little bit of time to get off the drugs before I say anything.
All right, Brody, we appreciate you joining us again. Congrats, and we'll look forward to seeing you out on the interwebs and beyond. And keep practicing, and we'll be talking to you more as you keep winning. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks for all you guys do, and good luck with the coverage this week.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Later, guys.
Later. Good night. All right, so there we have it.
A good, quick chat with the winner for this weekend.
Yeah, as always, we like to get in there, get a couple of quick questions in, and then bounce right back out, and that's exactly what
our podcast is known for.
Super good to hear some insights from Brody, who, as he said, always excited to challenge the status quo, and that can be, obviously, that's not just specific to disc golf. It's great that when you have fresh blood, fresh new face, thoughts and ideas, regardless of his background, which does help that it's Frisbee related, that it's sports related. But when he comes in with some of his experience and background and knowledge, to then just at least ask the questions. And I don't think anyone gets too mad about asking the questions. Obviously, some people bite back a little harder when things are asked, but a lot of good questions need to be asked. And I think most people know I'm not necessarily shy to give my opinion either when things get asked, and even things like ratings. I know there's a whole other debate that we won't get into, but I'm glad that people have the questions that are out there. So good to see.
Certainly.
All right.
Let's talk a little bit about what went on this past week in PDGA news, kind of.
Okay.
First and foremost, we'll get the congratulations out. Did we congratulate Simon Lizotte yet?
Yep.
All right. Good. Congratulations, Simon.
Simon and Natalie.
Yes, Simon and Natalie. Let's talk real quick about the CBS Sports. I know
Natalia. I called her Natalie. Sorry.
Natalia.
Sorry. I was just sitting here staring at a blank screen. I'm like, that
didn't
sound right.
Up there.
I know.
You've met
I was staring at a blank screen.
I've only seen her once on.
And I was like, that. I said it correct earlier, but yes, Natalia.
Real quick about the CBS Sports thing. It seemed to be a very. It was very well produced.
Mm-hmm.
Jomas knocked it out of the park. It looked great. It sounded great. I really enjoyed the way that Nate and Germ were much much more professional, like an actual golf broadcast, different than what we normally get with our post-production stuff. Some of the whole previews that they did were phenomenal. The big overhead ones with the graphics, great. I don't necessarily think those translate to other courses. Because you can't, going that high, all you're going to see is trees for a lot of our more East Coast courses, but early type courses that we play in the year looked good. Impact that it had, there's a lot of people asking now, when are we going to see numbers? When are we going to see numbers? We talked with Mr. Rusko a couple weeks ago, and we might never know the numbers.
Yeah.
They're, at best, if they have a contact with CBS, I think that we might get a general, it went well, or it was good, or no, it didn't impact the way we wanted to. But I don't think we're ever going to see numbers. And anecdotally, I was watching the first and second episode I lied. I wasn't watching it on the TV. I didn't watch any of them on the TV. I was privy to them beforehand, but I was watching the Disc Golf Answer Man watch them, and I was kind of monitoring Twitter, which I think is a general barometer, and I was doing searches for disc golf. I didn't see a lot of tweets about it outside of the disc golf community. I saw a lot of disc golfers were super excited, clubs and individual people, and just everyone very ecstatic about how it looked and how it sounded and all that other stuff. I didn't see a lot of outside noise about it. And again, that's one person, me. There, anecdotally, we haven't talked to Dynamic to know if they have had any feedback on it. I didn't get a chance to watch Answer Man today to know if they talked about it, or if CBS is interested in more or less. I'm sure it's probably still too soon to really get into that. But what was your what was your intake on that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it goes without saying we expect that Jomez and crew I know they brought in not only some additional help, a lot of the larger overhead drone shots, and I don't know about the actual whole previews, but I know those overhead drone shots, that was an additional company or small company that they brought in and partnered up with or contracted. I think they came down from Kansas City or somewhere else to do the droning. They had a much larger scale drone than what any of our disc golf media companies have, so they are more of on a professional, larger scale, I should say.
Those larger drones are better for more stable shots, actually. The smaller you get, the more effect it's going to have on wind, and you're see more shake, especially in Kansas, especially that type of high altitude. You could see a lot of that, but with the bigger ones, you get a much more stable shot.
Yeah, and then there's going to be typically better cameras, better optics, all those things that are also then attached to those drones. So that was great, and no surprises there. Again, I know they enlisted and contracted with a few of the Central Coast guys, Ian and crew, awesome. Just to put it in perspective, and I know we talked about it earlier on an earlier episode, Jomez has anywhere from 3 to 4 to 6, I feel like, on an average weekend. Their crew is already one of the deeper crews. When it was all said and done for the filming of this, I think they had upwards of 19 people on their team. So that talks about the cost. I was going to say the exhaustive cost, but the cost and the requirements taken to put on something of that level. And you're talking about 19 people for a couple cards of coverage, with a focus on, so on and so forth. Like, that's a lot. And everybody may say, yeah, we love this. We'd love to have it every weekend. The problem, the practical problem is that's a lot of money. And that's just one card or a couple of cards, and that's one crew. Multiply that out and trying to scale those efforts. Yeah, there's a few places you save a few people, but you're talking about a lot more money and a lot more. And that's where I, kind of in my hypothetical about bringing up an extra $100,000, like where does more money go? Anyway, so that was all great. Skins match, I felt like to me wasn't exciting, maybe because I knew the outcome also. And there's a give and take about whether or not they're truly playing for the money. And I think sometimes that could play out on camera and sometimes it doesn't. There's definitely pros to saying, hey, we're going to all split the money and we're going to just go play our hearts out. But there's also a con to that, which is, hey, they're going to take shots that maybe they wouldn't have done in the true heat of competition if the money were truly on the line.
So are we under the assumption that they split the skins
I was
beforehand?
made under the assumption that all of the money that was taken to put into the skins pool was in fact split evenly with maybe a slight bonus on whoever did the best, as opposed to truly playing for that money. And the only people that are mad about that right now, should be Nico and Paige, because it's like when you say, "Hey guys, let's all split the lottery," and then you hit the lottery with your numbers. You're like, "Did we say we were splitting or not? We're not, right?" Like, so I don't know if they really feel that way, but
here's a note to a lot of the people out there. If you don't already know, 9 times out of 10, when there's a big money skins match or a playoff for first place in most of our big events, it's usually agreed upon beforehand to split the money between first and second. Well, it's never talked about.
It's just where our sport is.
It's never talked about on the broadcast. The way, and maybe that'll change as our purses get bigger, but for years now, it has just always been easiest to say, "Oh, cool! If I get a $1,500 for winning and $750 for second, I'll just take the $1,250, we'll split it evenly, and we'll move on. Then we're each going to get, a little more, or whatever those numbers are." I don't know why I picked 2 difficult numbers like that. I could have gone 1
you
and 2,000.
so quick-witted with that math. Good job.
I think I was wrong with it.
No, yeah, 1,700 and what'd you say?
I don't know.
I
made
know.
up 2 numbers and picked a number between it.
I'd
Regardless,
take that split too, because that means a ghost added $500 to the playoff.
Whatever works. But 9 times out of 10, that's what you're seeing. So, almost any Pro Tour event, NT, major, if there's a tie for first, they're playing for points, trophy, and win, and sponsor bonus. So that does come into effect, as opposed to the purse for the cash. It's just an unwritten rule at this point for the most part. I would love to say that if I ever got in that position, I would tell someone, no, I'm not splitting with you.
But you would.
No, I think I would tell them no.
Well, again,
it's a different situation for someone like you or me or something like that. Just when our numbers, let's pretend our numbers start to get bigger, and it's 25,000 for first and 15,000 for second. Is that going to make a difference, or is everyone going to be like, "Wow, that's $5,000 as opposed to what we were splitting before, which is $250"? Or is it going to be like, "No, I'm already making enough money where that's not going to matter"?
Exactly.
It's
all relative. If Ricky and Paul, I'll just throw this out there, Ricky and Paul go into a playoff, and it's 10,000 for first and 15,000 for second, they're not splitting it.
No, there's a few people. I don't think Kat and Paige would split. Ricky and Paul probably won't split.
And there's a personality and pride perspective, but there's also just a sheer economics perspective. Mm-hmm. You take 2 950 rated guys. I'm going to use the rating. You take 2 950 rated guys, and they've somehow are in a tie to win USDGC. First place is 20 grand, second place is 10 grand, making up more numbers. They're probably splitting that and each taking 15. All right, but you put 2 other well-established pros that are there. They don't that 10 grand isn't nearly. Doesn't mean nearly as much. So it is all somewhat relative when it's all said and done. So here's my other to kind of here's what I will wrap up the CBS stuff with saying.
Oh, I'm not ready to wrap
for me. Well, one of the biggest things for me is I stressed this earlier. I said it during this last week, and I'm going to say it maybe one final time. No, it's not. This was not for us. This wasn't for you, our Smashbox viewer. This wasn't for me. This wasn't for Johnny. This coverage was not produced I don't even feel like we are. It was not made for us. It wasn't. Like,
you're right.
If you are a diehard disc golfer that's watching coverage every weekend, you're 100% connected to disc golf in various ways. You absolutely, you are not the target market of this CBS Sports Network project. That's what I'm going to say to it. So if you hated it, fine. If you loved it, fine. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying you are not we are not the target demographic or market. If you enjoyed it, I think that's great. But if you didn't, because you either skipped around or didn't have this or didn't have that, I'm just going to politely say I don't care because this was not made for you.
That was the biggest,
and I mean that in the nicest way. It's just that we're not the target demographic.
That was the biggest complaint, I think, on Reddit and maybe even Facebook. I didn't look on Facebook much. People not understanding the format. People hardcore complained that they were skipping holes. They went from drives on 1 to the putts on 1. Then they went to 3, and then they skipped to 6, and then it went to 8 or 9 or something. And people were like losing it online. Like, where are the other holes? I'm not seeing the other holes. What they don't understand, again, is that you can't physically fit that many shots into the time period that we have if you want all the extra bonus features and the awesome graphics and all that other stuff. So again, not for us. That's kind of my next thing. We say it's not for us, that it's hopefully for people who haven't seen the sport or are being introduced to the sport. What's it going to look like when CBS looks at whatever internal numbers they have and they see, let's just pretend, a big spike in numbers for watching this? And let's just assume it's a majority of disc golfers. Does that change the perspective of CBS? Does that change their perspective and say, wow, there's a market for this for us? Who cares about whether or not this is going out to new people? We think we can bring in these disc golfers who are clearly excited about this, about it being on television, and bring it in. Is there a double-edged sword there? Is it not for us? We don't think it's for us. CBS got paid regardless. We know that. They got paid for their time. They got paid for the ad space, whatever else was in there. They're coming out ahead no matter what. But I'm curious to know where this goes from here, and clearly we don't know.
Sounds like you're curious.
I am curious.
I want to send another huge thanks and shout out for Dynamic, really, for spearheading the entire concept, making the connections, having the connections, taking the chance, rolling the dice, and then all of the supporters, all of the people that needed to get on board, everything from the production and the media companies to the Pro Tour, all those manufacturers that then supported their individual players in various ways. Like, tip of the hat, huge shout out, props, all of that stuff. I really have nothing. I have nothing to say negative about any of it. My only major follow up point was just the fact that if you were bent out of shape, that it didn't suit your personal coverage needs, and you're watching or listening to this, again, I don't think you were the intended market in the first place. That's all.
This is well after the fact now. I also saw people complaining about where to find it.
Yeah,
I thought it was relatively clear for the previous 2 weeks when we talked about it, when you saw it on everything, that it was going to be at CBS Sports. I can understand some people being a little frustrated when they got CBS All Access and it didn't include that. I think there is a definite problem with naming schemes in the streaming market, because you have Hulu, you've got Hulu without ads, you've got Hulu Live TV, and to watch this, you need Hulu Live TV. There's
is
YouTube.
there Hulu Sports?
No, there
should be.
There's not.
Sure?
No,
okay.
They have this big push that YouTube has sports, but there's not YouTube Sport or Hulu Sports. There's obviously YouTube. There's YouTube Premium, which all that does is get rid of your commercials and your ads in YouTube. Then there's YouTube TV, which is or then there's YouTube Music, and then there's YouTube TV, and you needed YouTube TV to watch it. There's CBS Sports, which is what this was on. There's CBS All Access. There's CBS HQ. It was only on CBS.
CBS Down and Dirty.
There's I
have that one.
That's weird. Is that Scrambled? Do you watch that Scrambled? You're not going to confirm or deny that. That's
all
okay.
I know is I had a C-SPAN representative show up to my house. I paid them a bunch of money, and they promised to get me connected, and I still don't think I got to watch it.
No. So I was a little frustrated seeing some people complain about that, because I'm like, I couldn't. Like, I understand it can be hard, especially when our generation now, or the generation younger than us more than likely, has never had any sort of cable subscription. So I totally understand that. I had one more. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I got a little frustrated exactly. I signed up. I clearly did not read specifically enough or diligently enough. I signed up, I think, for a YouTube Premium or something. Then I'm searching around and I still like this stupid YouTubes. I don't understand it. How do I even post here? I don't get this. And I signed up for some free trial to something that didn't get me to where I wanted, and that provided a new level of frustration. But I also wasn't incredibly diligent in my research. But again, that's when I further dug down and thought, well, this isn't for me.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that I'm still not 100% clear on. I don't think anybody is 100% sure and clear on, because nobody seems to be giving a 100% answer. Is the CBS version going to be available after the fact? Because everyone's saying, can I watch this later? And the answer is always, we're going to have the full version, or Jomez will have the full version, but it doesn't answer whether or not the CBS cut, the one that maybe people will want to watch to see it, to say, oh, this is what was put on there. This is the thing. If that particular exact 1 hour, 4 slots will be available to people in the future, or if it's just going to be the normal Jomez. And I know for a fact they're going to put out a full Jomez shot by shot with your typical, Nate and Germ, everything you're accustomed to, probably with some additional cool graphics because they've had time, probably with some additional cool interviews and stuff like that. I get all that, but nobody seems to want to give a clear answer on, will the CBS version, the exact version that's been broadcast,
I heard it would
available?
be. Take that for whatever it's what I heard or read or saw or made up or tweeted, that it would be. There would be the exact version that was on CBS. Now, of course, I could have been misinformed and be dead wrong. It would be the first time. But I heard that we will see a full Jomez production, and I heard that we will see a CBS version production. Now, whether that's on a CBS page or on a Jomez page or both or whatever, I don't know. But I heard that cut, so to speak, would not.
So.
Now, Jeff Spring from the Disc Golf Pro Tour, who graciously submitted $20 to us.
Thank you, first of all, Jeff Spring, for the skins match.
Skins match we're going to have in here.
We'll split it.
Yeah, we're going to split it. He says no.
Okay.
Unequivocally, no. CBS has that cut locked up.
That was my understanding, but it felt like every time someone asked if they could see this, everybody gave the answer, yeah, it'll be on Jomez. And it's like, no, it won't. This cut won't be. The tournament will be, but this cut. And I understand that most of our viewers don't care about this cut. But there are some people that are going to want to see, hey,
what everyone's talking about. Yeah.
What is everybody talking about?
I think that's actually on the new CBS Sports Network replay. It's a new network you sign up for. It's just all of the previous stuff that they had recently, but it's their instant classics version.
No, I think it's on Spike TV.
It could be. All right.
Does Spike TV win a channel anymore?
I don't even know. Steven's story. And if this is fine, Steven, you ran the tournament this weekend, and finally you took the bait. And you super chatted us so we could announce how you were the tournament director of the year in some year past recently, and you were also the tournament director of this Magnolia Open this last weekend. Congratulations! We're glad you got the good entertainment, and I did want to give the shout out in there. And I'm going to backtrack for a second to the event, and I don't want to do a disservice to Bo and how solid of a player he also is. When you click on it, you can see he's finished no worse than fifth at any point here in 2020, mostly his locals events, but to further emphasize how good Bo also is, when I clicked on it, I saw he's had no worse than a 5th place finish in the 10 or 12 or 15 events he's played this year. So I wanted to touch on that. So thank you for that, Stephen. And Christian, also thanks for the shout out. Okay. Jeff Spring also just chimes in with, before we cut away to the after show in a moment, Jomez will post their shot by shot, and Disc Golf Network will re-release the live replay 1 month after the CBS broadcast debuted. So it'll be on the Disc Golf Network?
Yeah.
The live replay.
The exact thing that we showed live.
No. Oh, our live replay.
Our live replay.
Don't
get confused, Terry.
I'm so.
You just need to take a step back from this one. And
I don't know. So you guys were asking about bonus coverage of Ledgestone. Let me tell you the 5 rounds I have in the can right now, right? Was that a segue?
No.
All right.
It's too bad. We have 2 videos that we were going to run tonight. We were going to run a Disc Golf Nerd one, which we'll probably have to push back till next week. And then we also have Ace Run Productions gave us a 1 disc 1 tip with Dave Felberg. But our Brodie interview went long enough where I don't think we necessarily want to play him tonight. We'll save him for the next week or 2, and we'll get those out there.
All right, I'm good with that. So we're going to close out the regular show. I've got a couple items we can chat about in the after show. We, of course, invite you guys to join us. I think we got a lot of new viewers here tonight. This is about the normal length for the regular show. In the after show, we just stand down first for a minute or 2, recognize some great supporters of the show. It looks like we kind of close out the show, and then we reopen with what we call the after show, where we talk about things disc golf and non-disc golf related. We also get a little bit more interactive with the chat boards that are available. So if there's something you want to ask us, or a conversation or something you want to bring to light, we're more likely to see it and then interact with it. So we encourage you to make sure you log in and throw your questions at us or your suggestions, whatever that might be. So the after show, again, could be disc golf related, or it can get into a lot of other really dumb topics of Johnny's choosing. So it can really go anywhere. We make absolutely no guarantees for any part of the 3 to 4 hours you tune in tonight. But we do invite you to stick around and join us for just that, for the after show. It's been so great having so many of you guys here tonight. So we are going to close things out officially. We've got podcast episode 313. We have to thank Brody Smith. We have to thank all of our tremendous super chatters, all of our new viewers, and our regular viewers that are here tuning in. Again, we'll stand down for a few moments, and then we'll come back to you guys with more in the after show. For Johnny V, Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, we'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 313th After Show. Here we are. It's a little warm down here in the studio tonight, Johnny. I know it's like we're in a limbo of like...
It is. It's like not warm enough outside to put air conditioning on. It's really nice to open up the windows in the house. But down here is where the heat kind of retains, which is great in the winter.
Yeah.
Not so awesome in the summer. Even though in the
so
summer,
on
it's
September
usually,
1st.
In the summer, it's usually a little cooler down here than it is upstairs, but not a heck of a lot. So we are. It is a little muggy. It's a little bit.
Feeling it.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe it's all the heat we were bringing from that interview. We just concluded with Brody Smith during the regular show, asking him all the toughest questions.
I wish that guy would just like have an opinion.
Stop
riding the fence, buddy.
No, it's so great to have him come in, give us a little update after he had a great weekend. I want to give a quick shout out. I had the pleasure of playing in my hometown or home area that Johnny V and I are both kind of from, up in the Fox Cities of Wisconsin, and my biggest best takeaway of the weekend. Certainly, not only having a good buddy actually caddy for me, but even more so, another good buddy, someone I've looked up to for many years, John Turlap, who is Grandmasters eligible, said he didn't necessarily feel right playing in the Grandmasters field. He felt like he maybe was he more experienced than them.
Yes.
He played in the Masters field, which was also very small, and he, on the final hole, beat out another good friend of ours in Steve Held to take down the victory. It was great to see either one of them win, but that was a lot of fun, and then hanging out with my good boy and good pal, Mike Schwieger, on the weekend. So all around, super fun weekend up in the Fox Cities. Congratulations to John Turlap. I know John Turlap watches us with somewhat regularity.
He's not watching right now. I think he consumes after the fact, because it's usually the next day or so I see a comment come in about something. I'm like, what is that? Oh, it's reference to a podcast that we were talking about.
One of the other things of being up north this weekend, hanging out with my buddy Mike and others, we flipped onto the YouTubes, and I will strongly recommend anyone to do this. That's why I'm sharing it here, is go find The Invisible String on YouTube. It was a documentary that was put together a number of years ago. It might have even been 10 years ago now, or 6 or 8 or 10 years ago. Put together, it chronicles disc golf, freestyling, just a lot of Frisbee-based stuff, history of disc golf and of Frisbees, I should say, and of all sorts of things. It's a really, really good video, and it's free. It's on YouTube. Again, called The Invisible String. I think at one point when they were putting it together, they did a kind of a GoFund or a Kickstarter type
they did
program or something, and I'm pretty sure I got involved with that. I know a bunch of people did. Just anytime, and that was before we were really in the disc golf media scene at all. Just the fact that somebody wanted to do something professional and to have the focus that they did on Frisbee and disc sports, and then they knocked it out of the park. So certainly go out and watch
There
that.
might be something else coming out from...
So Dennis Worson is also... we talked about it on the show a few months ago as well. Flatball is... when he had gone through kind of the history of Ultimate, that's a totally separate video. He went through the history of Ultimate. That was phenomenal. I paid for that out of pocket, downloaded it through Amazon, and I think I watched it on my way to Finland last year. That was great. And now the same gentleman, is now working on, I think, a similar project for disc golf. And he's talked to a ton of various disc golf people, personalities, athletes, everything, and whatnot. So also excited to see his project. But Flatball is a great video to go out and watch. I think you might only still be able to get it on Amazon right now, and you rent it or whatever, get the digital rental or whatever. But go out and watch both of those. Kind of a random plug, but go out and watch those. You touched on something in the regular show that we could briefly touch on here. Last night at, I believe, 10 p.m. our time, I can't do all the math and the conversions, but about roughly 10 p.m. Central Time, at least, or somewhere abouts, we were eligible and signed up for the 2021 Japan Open.
We did. We signed up for...
That's exciting.
It is.
Hopefully. Well, it is exciting.
It's exciting. It's not necessarily, Jeff, if you're watching this, don't schedule anything next year around the
Japan Open.
It looked like Miss Hannah Macbeth chimed in earlier saying that this is not going to be a major.
I would believe that.
That this is going to probably be like an A tier or something along those lines. Still an awesome event. Don't let that sway you by any means. But we did sign up, and I don't necessarily know if we're going to be doing anything streaming that week or weekend, or what the plan is particularly. I'm hoping not. I talked to before I signed up. I walked upstairs. I was sitting right here at the station, and I sat down to my wife and I said, "Honey," and she just flat out, without even me answering, she's like, "No." I said,
that's a good default.
You don't even know what I'm going to ask. She's like, "It's probably going to be a no." And then I said, "Kate, would you have an issue with if I was able to go to Japan next year?" And she gave me a long, stern look, and she said, "Go ahead and sign up." She's like, "Can I bring the whole?" She's like, "Do you want to bring the whole family?" And I was like, "That's really expensive. You're looking at like $1,000 plane flight." I'm like, that would be like a $7,000 or $8,000 trip for our family. I'm like, I just don't think that's going to be in the books for us. So it's gonna just probably have to be me and maybe Terry and maybe Mr. Rumble. And So I got the okay, assuming everything's clear for next year. We're supposed to do that. We're supposed to do. Okay. Well, we'll figure that out. Jeff.
Yeah. That was a good conversation.
I'm training Mo here for this. No. We'll get it figured out for sure. I registered just to save a spot. Don't necessarily know if I'm going to go or not. I would love to, obviously, but we'll see. Ultimately, I think it'd be awesome to cover it. And I don't know what type of big pros are even going to show up if it's not a major. If we're going to see a flood of like a Ricky Wysocki and. I know it's primarily an Innova or Hero Disc sponsored event, so we might see, there might be more of a push for Innova players to go there as opposed to a lot of other players.
I think, of course. So let's just put it all out on the table on the fact. First of all, everyone realizes international travel is clearly in limbo in every possible way, regardless of the month. This is to take place in the middle of May. Who knows if or when there'll be international travel outside of the, from America to other places, or if other countries will be going there. Now, will friends like Jazz and Cassie Sweeten have any problems going from Australia over to there versus, us flying out of Chicago to there? Who knows? Again, I know that's in May, and there's a lot of unknowns, and I'm sure things will continue to shake out as this year closes out and we figure out things for next year. But really a matter of a placeholder of potentially either competing in the event, or if there's a media component to us being involved, whatever the case might be, everything and anything is on the table, and possibly even nothing. And I think one of the big takeaways is kind of mentioned here by Jeff Spring and some others. One of the first comments that I saw last night was Jen Allen had posted and said she got signed up for it. Oh, and excellent. Immediately after that, Paige Pierce had chimed in and said, "You're not doing U.S. women's?" And that kind of very quickly brought to light the fact that currently the U.S. WDGC, which was, of course, not held this year.
And is that in Madison?
No, that is to still be held in California next year.
And then Madison the year after.
And then Madison the year after, because they were to have it this year in May. I think it was supposed to be it was supposed to be in May. Well, next year it has been rescheduled. In fact, those dates were just announced a few weeks ago. And so that is obviously a women's only major. Mm-hmm. And we'll see if there's which women may consider have to make a tough decision. Assuming Japan Open happens, would someone like Paige Pierce pass up the possibility for a major? I wouldn't think so. No. Even if the Japan Open is a really amazing experience, but if that's not a major,
if that's just an A or a B tier, no, it's not going to see hardly any big international turnout from FPO specifically, and probably not a lot from MPO.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions on the board and across the board, I should say, as to what will or won't happen. But there was a lot. I will say this, at 10 or 11 o'clock at night when I'm just hitting my stride, usually, for late night power action, there was a lot of chatter. There's a lot of people, a lot of age-protected divisions. I think of the Kansas City contingency of Jack Lowe and a lot of those types and his friends and his people he hangs out with. I saw people who we met and hung out with from Colorado. I think of Jerky, for instance, coming in from Colorado. Her and Chad said they're signed up. Cassie Sweeten, who, like I said, I met back in 2008 or 2010. She talk about a fun international family reunion of sorts.
That's exactly what it is.
And all of that might be really exciting if it goes down. Yeah, Kona Panis, I believe I saw her and her and I would assume Colton had signed up.
I saw that from
J Ray. It's all just to name a few. Jason Wilder, who's a Smashy and our Zuka ambassador. So and Jeff is on the board saying that Japan is unsanctioned
currently.
And again, there's a lot of factors there. So just to throw this out there, they have two separate events that are going on. They have what is being called the professional tournament, which is where you'd see any and all of us competing in it in some capacity. And then they have what they're calling the open tournament. Now, the open tournament is meant for mainly Japanese nationals and people that have been playing like a year or less. Are truly, a better term for it would be like the novice tournament, not the open tournament, but by open they mean it's open to anyone. But really, it's not, because they're going after people who have really never played tournaments before and are super new to the game. So there was a lot of confusion in the registration process because you were seeing one that was 6,000 yen or $56 or $53, and you're seeing one for 30,000 yen, which is closer to $280. And some people may have signed up for one thinking they were signing up for the right one. And yeah, so we'll see how some of that shakes out. Yeah, it would.
I don't even think I signed up for that one. I signed up for something totally different because it said
you're not going to Japan. You're signed up for something taking place in
that was
another
6,000 yen, and I thought I didn't even think about it. I thought it was maybe just holding a position or something, and it had said Masters Division, but it wasn't even the Open tournament. It was something else, and so I emailed them. I signed up for the Japan Open then in the correct division. I emailed them back and I said, hey, there was a little confusion. Sorry. I'm sure I wasn't the only one because that website was a hot mess.
It was tough to navigate and understand, and I'm only so confident because I talked to one of the TDs myself.
Yeah, it was, and it was in English and Japanese, so you had to really kind of and it was just confusing. But ultimately, it was, I did, like I said, I did sign up for it, and it should be kind of cool if depending on what happens.
Yeah, well, we will see how it all shakes out. Everything, international or otherwise, and local in 2021. I'm sure it has some element of uncertainty at the moment. So I guess we'll just have to see how things shake out. But that certainly became a conversation piece, as I know some of the women that were interested in signing up or going to Japan, may or may not be faced with a tough decision to forego the U.S. women's, and we'll see how that shakes out.
I think it's going to be an easy decision for most of them, especially if the Japan Open is coming back on a regular basis, which we don't know.
Yeah, and that's just
you
it.
Could probably make that assumption,
and I
that if this is going to be them dipping their toe back in the water and then hopefully continuing every 2 years or so, or maybe even the next year and then another 2 years.
Yeah,
who knows what's going to happen.
I do know one of the rebuttals that was made when Paige had asked about the potential conflict. Sam Ferrens of Innova, who also works with Hero Disc and the Japan Open, had said, we're scheduling this around a 300-year-old festival in the city, so it's not like the disc golf is going to be able to fluctuate a whole lot or have a lot of give or bend from their perspective, because they are trying to incorporate it and make it part of this festival that's taking place. And to me, again, are you going there more of a competitor or a cultural experience or a little bit mix of both? Who knows? So those are all things that we saw for the Japan Open. And yeah, all right. Good night, Jeff Spring, signing off from the Disc Golf Pro Tour over in Vermont.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us here tonight.
Let's give something away, Terry Miller.
Let's give away something of Jeff Spring's.
All right, his left shoe. So if you see Jeff, just take his left one.
Take it.
Just don't worry about it. That's not even his plant foot anyway.
Yeah.
So he'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. No, we've got some stuff to give away, and I do need to get caught up. I know we've been, I've been harvesting. Is that the right word? I've been harvesting a few weeks worth of goodies. So look for me to get caught up on that very soon. To get some things out to you guys. We appreciate all of our smashies every week. You are eligible if you are contributing to our Patreon at even just as little. I'm saying as little as $1 would make you eligible. There is no cap. There is no maximum amount that we would cap you at, but you can do it for as little as $1 to make you eligible for our weekly giveaways. And we appreciate you guys signing on and being part of that. And
this is about the time we start talking about like other Patreon levels. $3, we'll be getting our annual disc set up pretty quickly here.
Yep.
The $5 level, where you'll get to be part of the mini studio audience, and of course the $10 level, which is a piece of clothing, usually a t-shirt quarterly. I will be getting that sent over to Miles in the next week or so you can get that. You can get a SmashBoxx shirt just for supporting us at the $10 a month level.
All right, so let's give away some sweet action. This is episode 313, So we're going to go with the number 3 here tonight as you're out there on random.org. And so the third number that you choose will then correspond to our spreadsheet of 193 patrons. And how did you sort the patrons tonight, Johnny?
By first name.
This is the most exciting part of my week.
Tonight, I went with the boring first name.
Wow.
So we're going to go with the third one you said?
The third one.
Not 72. Not 175. Over under 50.
It's going to be over 50.
140. I gave you a good.
And we have a 193. I'm going to say that's going to start with the letter R.
Wrong. The letter P. You were way off. Paul French. Congratulations, Paul French, on winning tonight's Patreon giveaway. We will reach out to you, Paul, and make sure that you are that you're happy.
Yeah, we'll give you something. Ray is asking. Ray may or may not be a Patreon supporter at that level. Show a picture of the minis when you list the Patreon sponsors at the end. Do you have a picture? You could just show them right now. So when Johnny V is talking about at the $5 level, and you submit a semi-appropriate image to us, we actually work to then get that image put onto a mini, and then it goes up on our wall, and that's how you become part of our mini studio audience.
That picture is a little bit. That's when I only had 3 shelves. I've got a 4th row now that I put up just the other day, so I could spread them out a little bit.
Gaining friends.
So because there's a few I need to order yet, and I'm just waiting to get like a package of them, like a handful of them, to make sure that we have that we're. I don't want to order one-offs if I can help it, just save on shipping. So I'd like to order a few of them. So yes, if you are a Patreon supporter at the $5 level, you get to be put on the wall. I'd love to have to put up another shelf. So please help.
I want to be part of the top shelf.
Should we charge more for the top shelf?
Yeah.
Right now, it's just literally there was no order. It's what they came out of the box in. So.
Premium top shelf. All right. Tim says disc golf needs to level up. Sponsors. Bushnell is a good start on a new level.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to argue that we need sponsors. I don't know who or how or where they're coming from, but people like Bushnell are clearly an obvious relationship. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to shout them out. For the first time, was able to get out the rangefinder that I have, and throughout this round, although the course wasn't long this weekend, there was still just a matter of playing with the rangefinder to be like, oh, how far is that garbage can away? How far is that tree away? Only because the course that was played was not of a Pro Tour caliber, we'll say. But the fact that they're serious enough to now have a version, and they're working on the disc golf version, so to speak, that measures in feet, which is not common for rangefinders, is really cool. And so thank you to Bushnell, and I say that personally, and I say that as somewhat of a representative of the Pro Tour and the media there.
This weekend, you're going to see a new little segment from Bushnell on the broadcast. I believe it's this is the after show. It's going to come out Friday. Don't tell anybody, guys. I think it's like the Bushnell Big Drive.
Ooh.
So
play it for him now. Give him an exclusive.
I don't even have it yet. I don't even
have
the
out.
graphics.
Okay, draw it out.
And so it's going to look like this. It's going to have some numbers.
Can you do a flipboard? Just drop a flipboard.
No. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to have some pretty cool accurate distances from the course on a few holes, I believe.
All right. And Carolina Chainbanger says, looks like the shelf is full. We will either make more shelves.
Oh, that shelf is full. Like I said, that's a picture from the very first time. I added a 4th shelf and spread everybody out. So
we had to social distance your minis for now.
Yes, we had to social distance the minis.
Only, of course, they only had to be social distance by
6 inches.
Yes, exactly. It's all to scale.
So there is plenty more room now that I have a 4th shelf. I actually even have a 5th one if I want to put it up. I just haven't. We don't need to be that socially distanced yet.
All right. Cody says that contractors, surveyors, realtors all love or will love the Bushnell in feet. That's a great point. So when you're, your side hustle, when you're losing all your money playing disc golf on the weekends because you're not very good, but then you're a realtor or some kind of other contractor by day, get double use out of that. Then it's a business write-off. Man, I like it. Good call, Cody.
Darren LeMay asks, speaking of shelves, was I the only one judging JVD's board game shelf? I'm not sure which. Did you see that in my in my son's picture this morning that I was linked to? Could be.
That is not creepy.
Not at all. No. That is mostly the ones. The shelves you saw were probably mostly my son's books.
Is there a picture on our Facebook of you taking pictures of your basement like some kind of pervert?
Pervert? Really?
I mean, no.
That's the word you're going with? Pervert?
I can think of other words for you.
Thanks. I don't know where you saw it, but we have a lot of board games and some very fun ones. So, if you Patreon sponsor at $5 a month, you get a disc and put your mini on the wall. Yes, you do. As you move up in the Patreon level, you get everything below it. So if you're a $10 clothing level, you get the clothing, you get the mini, you get the yearly disc.
And tell them what else they win, Johnny.
You're eligible for our weekly podcast giveaway. And if you want to give us more than that, I'm happy. I'll happily make a phone call to you if you want. Like if you want to make up some level at $20 a month, where John just calls and chats, we can do that.
Do not do that. That is not a good idea.
I like to talk. My wife is sick of me. Terry Miller's sick of me. If I can just sit and chat with somebody, anybody, please
do it. I know I mentioned in the regular show, but I'll quickly touch on it again. I think maybe I screwed it up. No.
Probably.
On social media, it was kind of a big deal yesterday. We saw Simon Lizotte, who has obviously gone through a ton of pretty crazy life changes with, coming here touring, getting a 5-year visa, I believe originally, buying a relatively expensive car, then moving and staying in we'll say the Boston metro area, now proposing and becoming engaged. So we might be stuck with that Lizotte fella for a while.
You think?
I don't know. But congratulations to him and Natalia.
He's a nice little kid, but...
One way or another?
One way or another.
Anything else that we saw happening in PDGA news, for instance? I know talked about last week, we briefly touched on the fact that there were a couple openings and positions over at the PDGA, so I'm guessing those are still available. So if so, please go check those out. You can find those on the PDGA website. I'll make another quick plug, although it's unpaid. UDisc is great. I continue to use them whenever appropriate, but I also then got another experience using the PDGA live scoring app this weekend. It works great, and I will just say to any tournament director, of which I am as well, if you can adopt it and start getting people now, there's no better time than now when there's less touching of scorecards and pencils and exchanging equipment. Now is a great time to really look into using the live scoring app, and I think besides all, there's a lot of advantages, but from a tournament director's perspective, it eliminates so many of the bottlenecks of double-checking scorecards, of shuffling things around manually. There's just so many great advantages. So if you're in an event, or you're thinking about running an event, or you may be assisting an event in some capacity, look into the PDGA scoring options. I think if you go to pdga.com/score, that may get you off on the right track, possibly.
Steve Story says, I'm sorry, it says Steve O Story now. Sorry. Use PDGA live scoring for every event. Yeah, I mean, short of the probably the majors and the NTs, where UDisc seems to be the preferred one because of the stats and all the other stuff you're getting, the detailed stats. I agree, and I wish I would have thought about. I wish I would have thought that you guys were doing live scoring this weekend. I would have watched and laughed at not only you, but my friend Steve, who gave up a 4-stroke lead with 6 to go. I would have laughed at both of you.
Yeah, yeah, you follow along. It's not necessarily pretty.
Christian Carry-On with the $2 super chat asking, how do we get more diversity in the sport? I guess it depends what you're asking for diversity. Are you talking male-female? Are you talking ethnic diversity? It's tough. I mean, more small courses in city parks, I think, would help out a lot
on a lot of fronts.
On a lot of fronts, but I'm talking for diversity aspect, as well as hopefully getting baskets into schools and getting it to be part of a curriculum. I think those are the ways you start out. And there's obviously such a bigger discussion that can be had. And if you want to go and kind of look into some of that, I know the Pro Tour has done a few diversity discussions that you can check out on their YouTube page. That's about all I unfortunately really have for you. There's, I always find it ironic. Yes, and we appreciate the super chat, but you're asking two middle-aged white guys how to get more diversity in the sport. You know, we can only do what we can do, and we'd love to see it, but I don't necessarily know if we are qualified.
We're not the answer men. We're not disc golf answer men.
We're not disc golf answer men.
That we are not.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Yeah, I think more courses in any community certainly is going to help. Just with the introduction of the game, no matter who lives in any, whether it's a city park or a suburban park or wherever the courses might be, hopefully that just attracts a younger crowd, and hopefully that younger crowd in itself is also then more diverse, would be the way that I would look at it, and hope that can, be one possibility. I think, just generally speaking, again, across all demographics and ages and regardless of city or state, I think a great opportunity are places like your Boys and Girls Clubs, your Boy Scouts, your Girl Scouts. I feel like a lot of those collections or groups of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not clubs. What are those? Programs, those are a concentrated place of usually younger, either young children or young adults. So as diverse as that group's going to be, if you're introducing any activity to it, I feel like right there you have a captive audience.
That's great, but I have the best answer.
Yes.
Just get disc golf in Fortnite.
Oh.
That's where all the kids hang out.
Oh, okay.
If you can get disc golf in Fortnite, we win.
Okay. Well, Johnny just did it.
I just answered the question.
So somebody just go put disc golf in Fortnite. I'm guessing that's pretty easy. I'm sure influencing those...
Actually, I think Danny Disc Golf did that. I think Danny Lindell did that with something at one point. I don't know for sure, but...
Oh, shoot. I did. Speaking of kids... My kids...
Yours?
No. I was going to turn off... I was going to turn off the Wi-Fi to my household because my...
Do you think your youngest is on right now?
My 9-year-old, you're probably watching, Kenzie, or you have it on one of your 9 screens. If she is still on, I was meaning to turn off the all of the Wi-Fi at my house.
Tyler Brickley says her friends says that Danny Lindell and him had already done that. So I thought so.
Okay, well then thank you. Thanks for fixing any kind of lack of diversity we have in disc golf. We give you guys all that credit.
Much appreciated. Now, what are the odds? So your daughter starts school in 2 days or tomorrow?
I had my 11-year-old daughter started school today virtually. So she sat at a computer at a table for most of the day. She had a whole list of notes and all that.
11-year-old son.
Yep. So she did that today. And my other daughter, the 9-year-old, does not technically start until Thursday. I don't know why they're slightly offset because they're both go at the end of the week in person. So I'm not sure how it all shakes out or why, but I know she didn't have school yet.
Okay.
That's all I know. and all I keep thinking is get out of the house. Gosh, it might be unsafe, but get out of the dang house. I need the house to myself again. So the few times I am home during the week, I want it to be kid free. Get out of my house.
Yeah.
Okay. No.
I have no clue. I do know. You know what I'm really happy about as far as kids staying home? So my children are 100% virtual for at least the first 45 days, I believe is what they said. Probably longer. So my wife and I need to split time staying home. Well, you know what day I pick?
Wednesday.
Good
job.
Oh, gosh.
Did she even argue with you?
No, she was so happy because she's like, would you like to do it Wednesday? And I was like, yeah. Because normally, we end their podcast, whatever, 12, 1, 2, that doesn't account the time that we turn it off and Terry and I have our private after show. And then I have to usually wake up at 6 a.m. So I'm usually on 3 to 4 hours of sleep, assuming I can fall asleep right away. Not always the case. So now I can kind of sleep in a little bit more. And my son is good enough to be able to get himself on when he needs to. Right behind this curtain is my son's workstation. So he'll be there tomorrow morning. But my daughter, we have like an in-house helper to come in that is helping her do a lot of her work for the special needs stuff. So it's great. I'll be able to sleep in a little bit. I'm just so excited.
All right. Matthew is asking on the board, are there any programs to donate used discs to schools or inner city boys and girls clubs? I'm sure if you did a little searching on Facebook, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but what you could do, and it might just be a start, and maybe they'll point you in the right direction if they don't, would be the You Play Disc Golf or Edge. You could reach out to either of those programs. I in this case, because you're talking about used equipment, You Play is a little bit newer and fresher and may or may not be quite as backed or funded as what Edge has been, so that might stretch a little bit more if you were to go to them. But I would reach out to them and see if they have either connections or resources, and they, maybe they have a whole list of schools that they say, hey, if we ever get extra discs, here's where they could go, and then they could maybe help you out. So that's where I would take that. Right. Tyler Brickley and friends now. Wow, it seems like his login continuing to change. It's the only way
he gets friends is if he puts it in his name.
And I see David John is out there as well. David John says send them to Africa. Love to get. I mean, as disc, here's one specific challenge, and I as you were saying that, I know when Eagles Wings, for instance, went to Zambia. I know when I go to Thailand, because of the challenges with shipping and receiving and all of that infrastructure, the best way for those things to get there is for you to physically bring them along with you on a trip as an extra suitcase or as an extra carry-on or whatever. It's just too bad, because I remember thinking back to my friends over in Koh Samui in Thailand, and I thought, man, I'd really love to sponsor their league or do something like that, and let's get them some custom discs. And then you find out that it might cost you $800 for the discs, and then it costs you another $1,200 to ship them there or something silly like that. Yeah. And then there's no even guarantee as to them arriving, on this island or whatever the case might be. So unfortunately, a lot of those situations almost have to be physically brought. Clearly not everything, but some of those communities where they would make the best of them sometimes might have to be brought in person, unfortunately. So, all right. Cody says, send them to me so I can trade them at Play It Again. I think you're missing most of the goodwill nature point to that. And Tyler is on here with the super chat. We appreciate it. So, Green Mountain Championships, we glossed over it during the regular podcast. Is there anything that jumps out at you for this event, Johnny? 2 rounds at Brewster, 2 rounds at Fox Run. They've had a couple weeks off. They've been quarantining. It's gorgeous in Vermont. Any other takeaways?
I wonder, and I know we kind of touched on this, if the play or scores will be any different with our players having been there for so long. Okay. As opposed to showing up.
Like they got extra practice.
Yeah, because we saw that on UDisc, there was Calvin and Eagle and Oakley and there was one more
Mountain
player.
Or Heimberg or somebody like that were playing a practice round maybe.
They're playing a practice
Clemens
round
maybe, or Eagle.
I already said I said
okay.
I said all those people. There was one more. You could probably go out to UDisc and it's probably still out there. But they were doing a practice round, like an official practice round where you play it like a tournament. Calvin was tearing it up. So you have to wonder if that's going to be able to kind of flow over to the actual tournament with all this extra practice time they have here.
Good question.
I don't know, but it's hard to bet against Ricky here. He has played very well. I mean, I'm sure Paul will do well, but has Paul won this event?
I don't think that he has.
I don't think he has. And so it's if you're looking purely on statistics, it would be a hard sell to have Paul win this, as hard as it can be for Paul, which is clearly easy. If anyone picked Paul, I wouldn't doubt them. But historically, he has not won this event, as opposed to a Ricky who has played very well. Kevin Jones as well. I know we talked about him, but I have a hard time. I don't know if he has finished well here in the past. I don't recall, so someone's probably going to tell me 2 years ago he took second or something crazy, but I don't recall Kevin necessarily playing well here, at least not sticking out. I mean, it's hard to go against, for me, again, Ricky and Calvin at this particular event. And then, of course, I think Dickerson, we're just going to charge him for the cameraman on the final day, because the cameraman's going to have to find him because he's going to be shooting 9 under after 8 holes.
That's C. Dick.
Disc Golf Nerd says Paul won last year by a lot. Did he?
I wasn't there, so I can claim and fully embrace complete ignorance. I was in Norway, the PCS Open.
Oh, he probably did win last year. Yeah. All right, so never mind.
Okay, yeah, complete ignorance on my part.
He won the DGP championship there.
Didn't he walk off of that a couple years ago?
He did. I don't know.
Wow. That's why we're the best disc golf podcast you don't watch or listen to.
Yeah, Macbeth did win GMC last year.
Oh, okay. Again.
Well, then never mind. Then scratch everything
I have
said.
a legit excuse.
I just see so much golf, I don't even pay attention.
Go out, make your pick 6 picks there on UDisc. That's a good idea. And
go
Sam,
to skipace.com and make your fantasy picks there.
That too. Sam we did talk about how Yuli's shooting and on average 20 points above his rating at this event. And not to sound too harsh about it, and that's great, but if that's not enough to win.
That's right. Totally. Paul, I do remember, Paul made that nasty run at the final hole and tried to ace it and blew past it by 25 feet and hit a tree. That's right. I completely remember now what happened.
Oh.
So it just took a second. You're right. Paul dominated that event.
So Macbeth.
Paul Macbeth, not Paul Ulibarri. Correct.
Yeah. So I guess it is of interesting note if Paul Ulibarri plays well here, but if it hasn't been enough to win, is it less interesting?
I don't know. Carolina Chainbanger asked a quick question. I know we talked about this last week. He asked, is the Patreon $10 a month or $10 for every podcast? You can choose either. We do it per creation, which means every time we do a podcast, you get charged, but you can also put a limit on it. So if you say you want to be part of the $10 level and then put a cap on it at $10, you only get charged for one podcast, making it more or less a monthly subscription type service. But if you want to give us more, we don't stop you.
Mm-hmm. But there is the option. So for some of our smaller subs and even some of our bigger ones, I'm not going to name names, but they don't limit it. So we see a very nice sponsorship from some people for that. Okay. And then, of course, without getting too far ahead of ourselves, right after GMC, we move over to MVP.
Right to MVP.
Very exciting. Obviously, one of the most beloved courses in the world as well, being at Maple Hill. I think we may even be talking to someone like Steve Dodge as early as next week, either that next week or the week after. I know he's working on another version or a couple more courses for Brody, and I did have a conversation with him recently, so I know he wanted to come on the show, and I think it's a great time just to play catch up with him, as we'll be leading to the MVP Open the following week. So maybe look for him next week, Tuesday.
Rolling into the kind of conversation we had with Brody about live broadcasting, I know one of the big marks that, the next big kind of plateau, I don't want to say plateau, the next big, what's the word I'm looking for, target that the network wants to hit, this Golf Network, is 20,000 concurrent viewers across all of our viewing portals, whether it's YouTube or Disc Golf Network, whatever. I feel if there's an event that's going to do it, it's probably going to be MVP. GMC everyone loves GMC, but I don't feel it still has the pull of the Maple Hill course. And I think if there's a spot where we're going to see a lot of concurrent viewers, it will be at the Maple Hill event.
All right. Well, either way, we'd love for it to be this weekend.
I would hope it's this weekend, but I just have the feeling if we see it, it would be MVP.
And if this hasn't been 100% officially made known, take a screenshot now of his pretty face.
Because we're going to get a prettier face?
Because you're gonna have to put up with Hannah Macbeth coming in on the sidelines this weekend. We touched on the idea that with the whole quarantine situations and restrictions and whatnot, I will not be at the GMC event this weekend. And in my place, you guys will be hearing from Hannah Macbeth, and her and I had a brief chat the other day about some ideas, some thoughts, some strategies, I guess we'll say, maybe some do's and don'ts as best as I could. I'll follow up with her yet again sometime before this weekend, but she is there. She is going to be giving you the sideline reporting, so she will be filling in for me. I'm sorry for if you think that's a trade down, you got to go from this face to hers. But in all seriousness, I expect her to do a great job. She has done some stuff of that nature in the past, and I think you actually might see her again the following week at the MVP, because my schedule will instead take me out to Bend, Oregon, where I will be alongside either Nate Doss or Valerie Doss.
Do you remember how to be in the booth?
I don't know. I'm just going to stare at the screen blankly and be like...
That's right. No one's going to see you. We don't go to the booth very often anymore.
Oh, well, that's no fun. So I could be doing whatever I want. Nobody will be able to see what I'm doing?
Correct.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
We go there on occasion, so don't get too relaxed. I mean, I don't want you suddenly to sit there and take your shirt off and be like, that's a little warm in here. Because at some point we might want to go to the booth to get your reaction on things. But we don't rely on it like we used to.
Okay.
And then you have to do the bevel breakdown at the end of the broadcast.
So I'm going to have to drink beer with Nate and Val and talk disc golf?
Probably.
Oh, my gosh. My life sucks.
It's a rough job, man, but someone's got to do it.
But I am excited. I have not been to Bend since their wedding, and I'm excited for the first time to now check out Bevel and to call the shots along with either Nate or Val. Last time I did that with them was last year at the Portland Open, and obviously that event didn't take place this year, but I am very excited to be in the booth. And truth be told, I haven't been in the booth with all of the extras that have been upgrades since last year, including more cameras, including more communication with the cameramen and with the shot caller here.
All the graphics that we show.
All the graphics that are available. All the additional pieces that have been cut in. There's a lot of things that I haven't had the chance to experience as a co-commentator yet. So I'm very excited to take on that role for the MVP event.
Ryan Pilcher's probably right. We don't know if you'll be wearing pants at all during the weekend.
No. Define pants.
No, don't. Please don't. Whatever you do, don't do that. Val did make some local news. I saw her make a post about that. Something about the brewery and the local connection.
Darren had asked earlier on possibly or probably an unanswerable question, but I know we all laugh at the idea of a golfer getting engaged or married, ruining their lives. Ruining their games.
Not ruining their lives. Wow. No. Freudian slip there.
That being said, do you think it's possible that Brody and Foundation, the commitments could have affected Macbeth's practice and play?
I mean, it's always possible. I don't think it did.
No.
Like, if suddenly Paul were dedicating a bunch more time to Foundation and not practicing, of course, that could happen. I mean, we say that about, I know we made the joke about wives and girlfriends. When one of our golfers maybe gets a new girlfriend, you might see their game dip because they're spending more time off the course than on the course and maybe playing tournaments. But that usually doesn't last a long time before they get back into a habit. Sure, if Paul was dedicating time to doing a lot of the Foundation stuff, then maybe. But I don't think that's the case. It sounds like they have a crew or a guy or two there that does a lot of the manual shipping and all that stuff. And Paul, I don't think, has to dedicate a ton of resources, particularly directly to Foundation, as opposed to probably just being, as they say, the face of the company.
Yeah. Again, I'm sure, yes, he has put a little bit of focus there, but if that's in fact, I wouldn't say that that's probably pulling away from, like you said, in any substantial level whatsoever. So, all right, Johnny, I don't know that I have a lot else. Eric, yes, I will answer you quickly. Isn't Jamie having a baby? They're due mid to late September, if I recall. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Yeah, so mid to late September. So Jamie, understandably, does not want to run the risk of flying from the San Francisco area up to Bend to do the commentary because, of course, if his wife were to go into labor, they're expecting their first. And so that's
it's really the only important one after this.
Exactly.
You can just, brush it off.
So that's why he will not be at in Bend, and I've gone as far as I've already now made flight reservations. Side note: this will be the first time I've flown since coming back from Waco. Waco, I moved the flight up from Sunday to Saturday because things got canceled as they did, and I only say that means anything to me because I used to fly anywhere from 2 to 3 weekends a month. And now the fact that I haven't been in a plane even since March has been a little bit of a change for myself even. So, all right, guys, Disc Golf Nerd, we do appreciate that you have submitted a video. I think we're going to probably see it either next week or the week after.
I have it loaded up right here, the Invictus.
Yes, and same can be said of our friends over at Ace Run. We appreciate it, you guys. We're going to call it a night, though. This has been Smashbox Podcast episode 313, our after show. Not a whole lot going on, but we're glad you guys could tune in and join us. We look forward to next week. We'll likely be catching up with one or both of our GMC champions, hopefully, and we'll probably also check in with Steve Dodge right before the MVP. For Johnny V, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, we'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.